Surrounded by bones and ruins, our hero calls out to Luo Wei, reminding him that they were once brothers who fought side by side to the death. He then asks him why he would do something like this. At that moment, Luo begins to remember how it all started. He recalls that at first, monsters began pouring out of strange spatial rifts, causing chaos everywhere. Later on, those rifts became known to everyone as the dangerous dungeons. Because of this, those who came into contact with them gained mysterious powers known as classes. So, to conquer the dungeons, they formed a squad of class users, but the traitor reveals that's precisely why he needs to be eliminated. He's become uncontrollable. According to the blonde man, users with powerful classes can easily disrupt the order of the Empire. And our protagonist, who had surpassed even the SSS rank, had become the most dangerous enemy of them all. For the villain, the strongest power must belong to the royal family to keep the Empire stable. Furious, the warrior asks if that's his excuse for slaughtering his family and comrades. The Emperor simply replies coldly that it's all for the stability of his empire. Filled with rage, the young man screams his former friend's name and charges forward with everything he has. A powerful blast of red energy shoots toward his target. An explosion erupts, but it seems our hero walked right into a trap. The Emperor then reveals that he tampered with the armor, and the explosion will inject a potent poison. Lying on the ground, the protagonist no longer has the strength to resist after the long battle. On top of that, the traitor reveals he's prepared an entire army to finish him off once and for all. Luo even cynically adds that this is his way of showing his last respects to his old friend. Our hero then remembers their past and thinks that their brotherhood was nothing but a joke. Just then, a system window pops up and his hidden ability, Mirror World, is activated. This is the ultimate ability that reverses everything. The scene shifts to a riverbank where decades have passed since that incident. There, we see a group of bullies with a boy tied up, accusing him of pretending to be dead. One of the aggressors gets annoyed by the boy's empty stare and prepares to hit him. Next, they dunk him back into the water while the boy tries to say he's not faking it. Underwater, the boy was suffering. Meanwhile, the jerks find his expression hilarious and plan to beat him up some more for fun. As he's pulled out of the water, the boy spits up blood and wonders why this is happening. The boy despairs, asking himself why these terrible things always happen to him. Suddenly, the scene changes, and a blue-haired figure asks about a strange sound she heard. Back with the bullies, the boy with glasses begs them to stop, saying the victim is going to die. The leader of the bullies scoffs, saying he can just heal himself since he's an enchanter. The aggressor then grabs the boy with glasses by the neck, calling him a huge hypocrite. He then reveals that the boy himself was the one who led them there, so it would be his fault if anything went wrong. The boy tries to explain himself, but the leader asks if he wants to take a dip in the water too. Then he grabs the boy's shirt and says their punching bag has now grown a will of his own. Angrily, the bully punches the boy in the face, calling him a complete ingrate. But suddenly, the aggressor gets spooked by something that appeared behind him. Out of nowhere, a massive dimensional rift opened up over the river, right where our hero was. Everyone panics at the sight of the dungeon, wondering why it appeared right there. The cowards decide to run, and the boy with glasses hesitates, knowing a new dungeon is too much for them. He looks back and sees that the protagonist is still tied up and hanging from the tree. Terrified, the young man realizes his classmate is still trapped and in danger. With no time to think, the boy with glasses decides he needs to act fast and go back. With that, he runs toward his classmate, determined to save him. Inside the dungeon, he sees a horde of strange creatures emerging from the shadows. Desperately, the boy tries to untie the ropes, but the knot is too tight, and the monsters spot him. Then, one of the blue creatures attacks him by surprise, and the boy screams in pure fear. Suddenly, someone grabs him, saving him from the imminent attack. Our hero, now free from the ropes, moves quickly to protect his classmate. He then extends his hand toward the creature that was preparing to attack again. With a cold gaze and glowing eyes, he uses an ability called Glacial Impact. However, the system warns that basic heal has failed because the target was already at full health. The boy with glasses is shocked, asking why on earth he just healed the enemy. Right after that, the boy with glasses creates a shield and jumps in front of the protagonist. The hero then looks at his information and sees his name is Yun Che, and his class is Enchanter. Looking at his hands, he realizes this isn't his body, and the spell belonged to the real Yun Che. He thinks that normally, when someone touches a dungeon, they link to the system and gain a random class. And that's a rule that shouldn't be broken. After that, people get stronger in dungeons and gain abilities related to their class. But our hero was a warrior who had reached the pinnacle of power in his past life. He remembers that back then, he used the ability Mirror World, which reverses all things. After that, he was trapped in that world until he heard the poor boy's cry of agony. So the protagonist wonders if he has truly been reborn in this boy's body, but he's grateful for this chance because now he can finally get his long-awaited revenge. Meanwhile, the boy with glasses yells that the monsters are surrounding them and asks Yun Che for help. Our hero realizes this body is far too weak, and even these monsters are a problem for him. Analyzing the enchanter's abilities, he sees they're all useless with very low bonuses. The enchanter class is niche, and its strengths are all based on pure support. At that moment, he understands why this class was always looked down upon for being outclassed in every role. But drawing on his old combat instincts, he manages to defend against the attack. However, he needs a quick way out because if his stamina runs out, all will be lost. He then looks at his hidden ability and realizes that Mirror World is his only hope. He tries to use the ability on a demon but wonders how it actually works. The system informs him that activation has failed, and the boy questions what the conditions for use are. Seeing the monster's reflection in the water, he wonders if the skill needs a real mirror. With that, he tries again using the puddle, but the system warns that his level is insufficient. The hero notices that the error message has now changed. From this, he understands that Mirror World needs a reflective surface to be activated. But the level problem can't be solved, so he decides to try with another target. The ability fails again on the rusty cleaver, and the reason is still his low level. He even tries it on the monster's loincloth, but his classmate yells at him to stop wasting time with useless skills. Suddenly, a bright light appears among the monsters, and a new threat approaches them. Then, a massive, shapeless sovereign level 10 appears, making the situation even more tense. The boy with glasses panics, saying they're done for since you need to be level 10 to win. With a face full of fear, the young man can't believe such a strong monster has appeared. Completely hopeless, his classmate falls to the ground, believing their end has come. Before them, a horde of monsters with glowing red eyes charges forward, ready to attack. Our hero tries to use his skill on a rock, but the system warns that his level is insufficient. He doesn't understand why not even a rock works and wonders if the level difference is that great. Then, he gets another idea and points to his classmate's broken shield. But the system informs him that it's not possible to reverse other people's abilities. With a smirk on his face, he processes this new information and an idea sparks in his mind. The young man then wonders if this means he can reverse his own abilities. A system message confirms it. His entangling vines' skill has been completely reversed. With that, a giant wave of purple thorns erupts from the ground, hitting all the monsters. The system then notifies him that he used the ability Chaotic Thorns, which is the inverted version. The boss monster ignores the thorns and prepares to attack the defenseless boy on the ground. But suddenly, another monster appears and lands a powerful punch on it. Apparently, the creatures were now fighting among themselves. His classmate is completely confused, not understanding what just happened. The protagonist realizes the effect was inverted. Instead of immobilizing, it now causes confusion. He sees that the original skill traps an enemy, while the reverse one attacks and causes confusion. Under the status effect, the confused monsters start attacking random targets among themselves. With a smile, he realizes that a useless ability became incredibly powerful after being reversed. Thus, Mirror World lives up to its reputation as an SSS rank hidden ability. The hero understands that the skill not only inverts effects but also enhances them overall. He thinks that the normal version would have had a low success rate and would have lasted a second at most. The young man then wonders what would happen if he reversed his other remaining abilities. Next on the list is Fortified Strike, which grants a 5% attack bonus. With that, he uses Mirror World one more time. The ability becomes Deceitful Blade, which now increases his attack by 10% per MP spent. Upon activating Deceitful Blade, he understands that every skill use will now boost his attack power. The system then confirms that the new ability is active and will last for 60 seconds. He realizes the incredible potential since just activating it already increases his attack power. Suddenly, he levels up and the status window shows his new information and points. Looking around, he concludes that many monsters must have died fighting each other. He realizes these monsters give good experience and that this is the perfect time to level up. On top of that, he notices that leveling up has completely restored all of his mana. While the monsters remain confused, he decides it's time to test his Deceitful Blade. So, he activates Chaotic Thorns, and with each use, his attack increases by 10%. With that, his attack power reaches 220%, and he's surprised by how easy it was. With a confident look, Yoon prepares to show off the results of his newfound power. Next, our hero charges full speed toward one of the monsters. He realizes that this combination of abilities breaks all conventional rules of the game. With a swift and precise movement, he delivers a powerful blow. The attack creates a trail of purple light and hits the monster head-on with full force. From a distance, his classmate watches everything, completely shocked by the scene. He wonders if that's really Yoonji and how a level 5 enchanter has so much power. Our hero then begins to calculate his potential with his new level 6 attributes. With his mana and regeneration, he could theoretically achieve even greater attack power. He finally defeats the large, shapeless sovereign of the dungeon. With a confident smile, he begins to assess his current strength after everything that's happened. Yoon concludes that he can now barely handle the level 11 elites still left in the dungeon. But suddenly, a new and powerful sinister energy emerges in the middle of the battlefield. Then, a massive level 21 chimera appears as the hidden boss. Even the other monsters in the dungeon seem to notice the presence of the stronger creature. Without wasting any time, the chimera charges with full force toward the two of them. His classmate panics and screams that it's impossible for a monster like that to exist. Our hero is also shocked by the presence of a level 21 hidden boss in the dungeon. With that, the enormous beast leaps toward the protagonist, ready to devour him in a single blow. He tries to use his chaotic thorns on the creature, but the ability fails miserably. The system then informs him that the target is completely immune to the chaos status effect. At that moment, the boy with glasses yells for him to be careful and shoves him out of the attack's path. Because of this, the young man ends up taking the hit, and a shield of light protects him for a brief moment. Yunshe is surprised by his classmate's action, who just saved him from imminent danger. And suddenly, a vision of a noble knight with a shield flashes in his mind for an instant. In the vision, the blonde knight scolds his companion for being reckless and not listening to his warnings. With that, the memory of the past ends, and the chimera attacks with full force, and his classmate is thrown far away by the blow. The impact of the fall is brutal, and the boy with glasses hits the ground, gravely wounded by the monster. Furious, our protagonist charges toward the beast, saying it has a death wish. He then lands beside his classmate, who is down and badly injured on the ground. He then uses basic heal on Xiaoji, but the skill is weak and restores little HP at a time. A critical heal occurs, restoring a bit more health, but it's still not enough. He complains about the weak healing and asks if the boy has any potions, and he replies that he has an emergency one. Our hero tells him to drink the potion while his own attack power continues to increase significantly. Analyzing the situation, he realizes he's still no match for the dungeon boss alone, but he notices that the other monsters are almost dead from fighting among themselves. With a plan in mind, he tells Xiaoji to hang on for a minute, as this should work. His classmate is confused, but our boy confidently declares that he's going to finish them all. He then unleashes a series of quick and powerful attacks on the weakened monsters. With his blade, he attacks the remaining monsters with speed and precision. With this, he levels up, and his HP and mana are completely restored in the process. He then realizes he needs at least a 400% attack boost to defeat the boss. But Deceitful Blade only lasts for 60 seconds, and time is running out. To achieve this, he needs to use Chaotic Thorns 40 times in less than a minute. In other words, to pull this off, he needs to reach level 10 as quickly as possible. His classmate watches everything with an expression of utter astonishment, and as if by magic, he begins to level up over and over again. Meanwhile, the Chimera recovers and charges furiously toward Yoon. After defeating the monsters, he finally reaches level 12. With his attack at 510%, he declares that this is more than enough. He then charges at the Chimera and unleashes a barrage of blows. With his blade, he moves with agility and continues his relentless assault. The creature can't react and is hit by a shower of cuts all over its body. With that, the enormous Chimera screams in pain and finally seems close to defeat. Yunshe unleashes a sequence of blows on the monster, and our hero finishes his attack with a precise movement, splitting the Chimera in two. His classmate is stunned by what he just witnessed. Completely shocked, the boy with glasses wonders if this is all just a dream. He can't believe that an enchanter cleared a new dungeon all by himself and even leveled up in the process. The system then announces that the dungeon lord has been defeated, and our hero has reached level 15. Xiaoji approaches the creature's body and asks Yunshe if that's really him. He then questions how the protagonist got so strong all of a sudden. Our hero has a memory of Xiaoji sacrificing himself and of his former knight companion. He then asks the boy what his relationship is with a man named Chou Ben. The classmate is surprised and asks how the protagonist knows his great-grandfather's nickname. Shocked by the revelation, Yunshe wonders great-grandfather and is left speechless. He looks at the boy and realizes he's the great-grandson of his old comrade. A memory of his cocky-faced friend comes to mind, and he thinks about the little brat he once knew. With a serious look, the hero questions how this is possible, as he thought Luo Wei had killed everyone. Our hero asks about his classmate's great-grandfather, but the boy says they don't need to talk about that right now. With a sad look, the boy with glasses says he doesn't need to be humiliated. The protagonist is confused and wonders why his classmate felt humiliated by the question. Then Xiaoji says he doesn't know why, but he's sure the protagonist has been hiding his strength all along. He then invites him to head back, as the school is organizing a visit to the Modern History Memorial tomorrow. Yoon becomes thoughtful at the idea of the visit. He thinks that he can't reveal his identity yet, and agrees to go so as not to arouse suspicion. In his mind, the young man repeats the name of the place, the Modern History Memorial Hall. He believes that there, he'll find records of what happened to the world after his tragic death. The next day, we see the students on the bus, having a great time on their way to the school trip. Meanwhile, Our hero and his classmate are sitting in the back with serious expressions. The protagonist observes his surroundings and thinks about how much times have changed since his era. He reflects that after so many years, the world has changed, and they even use dungeon items in vehicles. On top of that, many new things have appeared, but some he recognizes from dungeons of the past. He then looks at his items and wonders how this is possible if only monster drops come out of dungeons. He equips the Chimera Bone Ring, an epic item made from the rib of the dungeon lord. He then discovers that equipment and skill books can be taken out of the inventory and sold. The new passive ability, Robust Physique, permanently reduces all physical damage he receives, but things that don't fit in the inventory should disappear along with the cleared dungeon. With a thoughtful look, he wonders what on earth happened to the world after he was gone. They finally arrive at the Modern History Memorial Hall, a huge and bustling place. Before them, a massive statue stands tall and a guide begins to explain the history of the location. The statue is of the emperor who ended the dungeon disasters, the supreme ruler Luo Wei. The guide explains that over 50 years ago, this was the stage for a famous rebellion in history. In the past, people were greatly afflicted by the monsters that came out of the dungeons into the world. The situation worsened when the SSS-ranked dungeon appeared, and everyone lived in great fear of what might come. So, King Luo Wei personally led an army on an expedition to conquer the dungeon. Despite suffering heavy losses, he finally managed to defeat the terrible threat that haunted them. But right at that moment, the king encountered a rebellion, and the mastermind was someone well known. The guide then reveals that the traitor and mastermind behind the rebellion was none other than Yun She. The guide continues, saying that the king's trusted man turned into an ungrateful traitor. Furious, the protagonist thinks that in reality they were the ones who cleared the dungeon and were ambushed. With a pained expression, the guide says that no one can imagine the king's suffering from the betrayal. But he tells them that the monarch overcame his sorrow and fought bravely and courageously against the rebellion. And with the help of a hero named Ding Kun, he finally managed to suppress the rebels. Our hero is confused by this name and wonders who the hell this Ding Kun is. He tries to remember but doesn't know anyone by that name. Suddenly, the bullies who fled the dungeon appear and ask how they're still alive. One of them says the new dungeon was cleared way too fast and there must have been a master nearby. And he comments that the two of them were very lucky to find someone to save them. Our hero then stares down the cowards who abandoned him to die inside the dungeon. The other students notice the commotion and ask if the two of them encountered a dungeon disaster. And they question how they managed to survive, and two girls become interested in the rumors. Then the leader of the bullies approaches Kyoji and says he was lucky to get out alive. But with a menacing look, the aggressor moves closer, seemingly wanting to intimidate him. The aggressor accuses him of nearly dragging them into the dungeon and asks how he's going to pay that debt. But Chao Ji defends himself, shouting that it was their fault and he's going to report what they did to the school. Desperately, he continues, saying that because of the bullies, he and the hero were almost killed. With a threatening glare, the bully says he has no idea what his current situation is. He then tells his classmate to take a good look at the statue right in front of everyone. The sculpture shows his ancestor, Chao En, being stomped on by the hero and reveals his real name. With that, the aggressor calls him a descendant of the traitor and doubts anyone will take his side. But suddenly, the boy snaps, shouting that they can insult him but never his ancestor. Our hero is surprised to see his companion finally mustering the courage to defend himself. The other students notice the fight, and one of them reveals that Ding Shu's grandfather is the hero Ding Kun. With a dark look, the protagonist finally understands the connection between the names and the story. Soon, the other students recognize Chao Ji and say it's absurd for him to insult a hero. One of them adds that his ancestor killed many people, and the hero saved even more lives. The bully leader then yells that he won't tolerate an insult to his grandfather in front of him. At that moment, the guide approaches and says that as a fair teacher, he will say a few words. The teacher turns to Chao Ji and with a serious expression tells the boy to apologize. He says the hero spared his family in the past and he should be grateful instead of slandering him. The boy with glasses is speechless and looks completely devastated by the unjust accusation. The bully then scoffs, saying that if he hits him now in public, everyone will just applaud. He continues, saying that no one helps a vicious dog, and the boy with glasses is a despised dog. With that, he grabs his classmate's hair and asks if he still thinks a hero's descendant is in the wrong. Filled with rage, the aggressor raises his fist and shouts that for the honor of his ancestor, he won't let this slide. But suddenly, a kick lands squarely on the bully's face. The aggressor is thrown far by the force of the blow, and our hero appears to defend his classmate. The boy with glasses looks up, completely shocked by his friend's sudden intervention. With a dark look, Yun Che questions if the hero's family doesn't have time to discipline their brats. The other students are shocked and wonder if that's really Yun Che, as he dared to hit Ding Shu. They call him crazy for insulting the hero's family and don't understand his sudden attitude. One of them remembers he's only level 5, the weakest in the class, and another says he's gone completely mad. Lying on the ground, the aggressor smiles maliciously, seeming happy with the opportunity that has arisen. The aggressor gets up furiously and calls him a punching bag for daring to attack him while he was distracted. Then, the bully's friends join him, and one of them says he'll deal with both of them at once. Our hero just puts on an expression of total confidence. With that, the aggressors charge all at once toward the protagonist for a group attack. But he dodges the blows with ease and retaliates with a series of quick attacks. One of the bullies falls to the ground in great pain after being hit by our hero. Moments later, the group leader is on his knees, spitting blood and completely defeated. The other students are shocked by the scene and wonder what the hell just happened. Dingshu can't believe he was defeated by that Yunche and wonders what is going on. The students comment that he got knocked out again and question if he's really that weak. Seeing that he was being publicly humiliated, Dingshu becomes furious, uses the skill ridge, and increases his attack power by 25%. He convinces himself it was just a lucky shot and equips a furious hammer. Then, with the weapon in hand, he charges with everything he's got toward the protagonist. Our hero simply dodges and says his opponent's openings are too wide. Next, Yunchi lands a punch on the aggressor. This leaves Dingshu in shock, unable to believe this is really happening. With a powerful kick, the protagonist easily knocks the bully to the ground. Suddenly, a security guard appears and shouts, asking what's going on. He sees Dingshu unconscious and desperately asks if there's a healer nearby to help. The students are surprised by the boy's speed and question if he's really level 5. The two girls from before watch the scene with serious expressions, seeming very interested in the protagonist. The guard then scolds the teacher, saying that fighting is forbidden and he can't control his students. The teacher runs over and accuses Yunche of assaulting a hero's descendant for no reason. Our hero calls him shameless, and his hand begins to glow with an aura of energy. With a cold gaze and glowing eyes, he seems to be preparing to use one of his abilities. A wave of purple energy hits the teacher and destroys the object. The guard and the students watch, completely shocked by what just happened. Yunche then confronts him, saying he only listened to Dingshu's side to please his family. Scared, the teacher yells at him to stop talking nonsense and is left completely speechless. The teacher is shocked that his attack was blocked and asks what kind of equipment that is. With a purple aura, our hero says it was just a comment, and he doesn't think the teacher is like that. The teacher agrees to investigate while the students wonder where he got the item from. He sees that his ring is damaged and thinks that the level 21 item is weak against the teacher. The protagonist then suggests that as punishment, the teacher should just kick them out, leaving the man surprised. He then turns to leave and calls for his classmate to come with him. The boy with glasses is stunned and wonders how his classmate managed to block the teacher like that. Desperately, the teacher yells for someone to use a healing spell on Dingshu, who is unconscious. With that, the two young men finally leave the memorial hall. With a sad look, the hero concludes that no one survived and his friend Ben was killed by that so-called hero. Once outside, he looks at his classmate and seems to have an idea in mind. He thinks his friend will answer without thinking and asks about the deeds of the hero Ding Kun. The boy with glasses gets nervous and tries to remember the details about the famous hero from history. He explains that the hero discovered the villain's conspiracy and set up an ambush near the dungeon. The protagonist starts to reflect and seems to have discovered something important. With that, a memory of the past emerges, and he recalls his old team in front of the dungeon. The battle inside that dungeon was extremely difficult and tested the limits of all the warriors. At that time, our protagonist fought with everything he had and surpassed his limits in the battle. His classmate continues, saying that the hero Ding Kun trained hard to resolve the crisis. After being promoted by the king, he fought all over the country and saved various places from destruction. And one of his most famous feats was the Great Cataclysm of Winterfell City at the time. Our hero seems to recognize the city's name, and an important memory comes to his mind. He then remembers that he was actually the one who saved that place from the monsters all by himself. With this, he asks his friend about the sword the fake hero's statue was holding. The boy explains that it's the floating cloud sword, used to finish off the traitor Yen Che. Furious, he realizes that not only his glory but even his sword was stolen by the villain. With a heart full of hatred, he decides he will finish off the fake hero Ding Kun first. The scene shifts to the Ding family home, with several high-level guards patrolling the area. Suddenly, one of the guards turns around, seeming to have noticed something suspicious nearby. Hidden in an alley, our hero and his classmate observe the enemy family's compound. The blonde guard looks in the boy's direction and complains about some brats being nearby. Hidden, our hero notices how alert the guard is and wonders if he has the scout skill. Scared, his classmate insists they leave as there are many guards and Ding Shu might come back. But the protagonist thinks that although he wants to deal with the fake hero directly, it's not that simple. According to his friend, the so-called hero spends all his time in a high-level dungeon and entry is restricted. Furthermore, these dungeons are guarded by the army and require a special pass to enter. With a plan in mind, he concludes that the Ding family must have the pass stored in their house. He He questions his companion about the need for so many guards for just one hero's family. The boy explains that besides being descendants of a hero, they have a dungeon on their property. The protagonist is surprised and asks what he means by them having a dungeon inside their house. His classmate reveals that low-level dungeons are bought and sold privately, but he adds that this is something only the rich and powerful like Ding Shu can do. For common students like them, it's only possible to level up in school training sessions, and they still have to fight for it. With a thoughtful look, the hero reflects on how the new era has completely changed things. He then asks if that means the richer and more powerful you are, the higher your level, and his classmate confirms it. The classmate explains that a common person graduates between level 15 and 20 and stays at that level. But he continues, saying that if you can get a job in a dungeon, your situation might change. With that, you could reach 30 by middle age, and the Ding family guards are already at that level. To go beyond that, you need to join the army or a guild, and only then get access to larger dungeons. With a determined look, our hero concludes that the pass is essential for him to get stronger. The boy with glasses tries to convince him to go back, as the level difference is huge and they're no match. The protagonist knows his current strength isn't enough to defeat the hero, let alone King Lu Wei. But he notes that level 30 scout abilities usually have a very small area of effect. Abilities like Eagle Eye or Enhanced Hearing don't cover the entire mansion all the time. And since it's not a life or death dungeon, most guards are complacent, which is an opening. His classmate is confused by the statement and wonders what he means by them being complacent. He remembers that in his past life, security was much tighter, and his friend warns him about the danger. Suddenly, the hero grabs his classmate, who panics and asks why they need to do this. With a confident smile, he asks the boy with glasses if he doesn't want to change his life forever. The boy says he does, but for that, he would first need to get into a guild, and then... The hero asks if joining a guild really changes anything for the great-grandson of the traitor Qiao En. The boy with glasses is left speechless by the question and seems to reflect on his miserable life. Our protagonist says that destiny is changed in the present, not with uncertain bets on the future. He then moves forward, saying he won't let the dungeon pass by, and his classmate must decide what to do. In his mind, the hero wonders if the descendant will make the same choice as his ancestor. With a determined look, the boy with glasses seems to have finally made his decision. He then runs after his friend, thinking he can't just let him go to his death. The protagonist tells him to be quiet and warns that there are no traces of scout abilities there. He explains that as long as they can keep their voices down, the infiltration will be successful. With an agile leap, he takes his friend with him, avoiding the guard's line of sight. Seizing the right moment, he enters with ease, and his classmate is surprised by the feat. Already inside the Ding family compound, the boy with glasses points to something in astonishment. Before them is the entrance to the underground dungeon that belongs to the bully's family. Inside the dungeon, they encounter zombies, and the hero notes that the level is slightly higher than the previous one, but he realizes the number of monsters is low because the Ding family clears them out regularly. The hero sees 2 weak monsters and tells his classmate to try fighting them alone. Frightened, the boy with glasses says there's no way he can win a fight against the zombies. With that, the monster attacks him, and he screams that he can't believe he trusted his friend for this. The zombie gets closer, and the boy yells that he shouldn't have come to this dangerous place. Desperately, he uses his shield to defend himself and shouts that he just wants to go home. The protagonist tells him to fight back, but the boy says he can't find a chance and reveals he's a shield bearer. From a distance, our hero watches everything and says he's keeping an eye out, so nothing bad will happen to him. The boy with glasses seems to gain courage and faces the monster with his shield raised and ready. With a quick movement, he charges and lands a powerful blow on the zombie with his shield. After the successful attack, his expression changes, and he seems much more confident to continue. He then dodges another attack with agility and continues to defend himself from the zombies in the dungeon. Our protagonist thinks that just as he imagined, his friend's talent for battle is very good, but he's timid and panics easily, though his sense of positioning is extremely precise. Because of this, he always seems to be in danger but doesn't lose much health during the fight. As the boy fights, our hero thinks that many people give up because they don't have the courage to challenge themselves. With that, the hero uses his ability and thinks that his friend's great-grandson has finally taken the first step. Surprised, the boy with glasses sees that he's leveled up to 7 and checks his new stats in the system. The protagonist explains that experience is divided based on each person's contribution during the fight, and if his classmate doesn't help unbalance the monsters, he won't gain many experience points. His companion says his movements are agile, and the hero asks how he distributes his points. The protagonist questions whether shield bearers shouldn't focus on other things instead of agility. But the boy explains that otherwise, it's hard to find a group because nobody wants to wait for a slow tank. Our hero advises him to think long-term, as advanced classes require certain attributes. He mentions the Bastion Fortress class, which requires 60 stamina and 90 defense. His friend says a normal person reaches level 40 at most, and S rank is just a dream. The protagonist then places a hand on his companion's shoulder to give him some important advice. With a serious look, he tells his friend to start thinking about becoming a true S rank. Shocked, the classmate hears the hero tell him to think about things far beyond simple S rank. Our hero reflects that he also needs to plan his own class evolution for the future. He thinks that his support class only became useful again because of the mirror world skill. With a focused gaze, he thinks that if nothing goes wrong, his class will change soon. Suddenly, a notification surprises him, showing that his skill can be leveled up. Without wasting a moment, one of the zombies charges straight at him to attack, but our hero retaliates with a powerful, energy-filled blow against the creature. He then kicks the enemy away as the duration of his ability is about to run out. Despite the powerful blow, he's amazed to see that the monster still isn't defeated. At that moment, the effect of his attack ability wears off, leaving the boy in a difficult situation. He realizes the ability is strong, but he can't sustain a very long fight. Finally, the monster is defeated, but he realizes his stamina also can't handle long battles. Despite this, he levels up to 17 and thinks he's evolving faster than most. On top of that, he killed 2 elite zombies and gained more experience for his special ability. While collecting the items, he's happy that killing these monsters also increases his skills level. But suddenly, our hero becomes alert, sensing something suspicious nearby. With a quick movement, he hides behind the rocks to avoid being seen by the guards. Hidden, he observes that the Ding family guards are patrolling the area more frequently. His friend says that with fewer monsters, the risk increases, and the hero wonders if the guards have noticed them. The protagonist agrees and thinks that fighting while watching the guards and calculating his skill is too much right now, and upon analyzing the skill book that dropped, he discovers a new spell he can learn. The reverse technique makes objects intangible, and he realizes that not every reverse skill helps in combat. He still needs 30% more experience for his mirror world skill to level up. Even at level 1, the reversal is already strong, and he imagines how powerful it will be after evolving. He believes that if he defeats this dungeon's boss, the skill might go straight to level 2. Looking at the back of the dungeon, he thinks that perhaps other dungeons don't give experience for the skill. So, he decides to check out the boss in the central area, where a strange tower rises. Hidden with his friend, he notices that detection skills are much more frequent there. Suddenly, he looks to the side with an attentive gaze, seeming to have noticed something important. Soon, they find the boss chained to a throne, with many guards patrolling around. His friend is surprised by the controlled boss, and the hero remembers that the one at school is also guarded. The boy with glasses deduces that the chains must be high-level equipment to hold the boss. Our hero reflects that attacking the boss with so many guards around would only attract more attention. He then concludes that at his level, he can't kill the boss while surrounded by so many strong enemies. With that, he decides to eliminate the guards first, and uses his deceitful blade for a surprise attack. The guard falls to the ground, completely incapacitated, while the 2 boys watch him attentively. Enveloped in a purple aura, the hero tells his friend to interrogate the guard and threatens him to talk. Desperate, the guard says he'll tell them everything as the Ding family doesn't pay him enough to die. Our protagonist just watches him in silence with a serious and calculating expression. He asks about the hero's dungeon pass, and the guard says the old master has several. The guard smiles, thinking the boy is just another fanatic of the hero grandfather who went too far. But he confirms that he saw the master take passes and leave them with the mansion's guard captain. The man explains that they are temporary passes, and without inside help, they would be questioned. With that, the hero grabs him by the collar and tells him not to worry about that little detail. With a cold look, he orders the guard to completely empty his system inventory. Now outside the dungeon, the group moves stealthily through the enemy family's compound. The protagonist questions if that's the only enchanter skill book the guard has. The man swears it is and complains that the Ding family takes the good drops and only leaves the scraps. With the book, he learns the passive ability Sunlight Baptism, which increases his defense. The inverted version is Moonlight's Blessing, which increases attack after using a healing ability. Next, the guard points to the inner residence and says they can't enter without permission. He continues, explaining that everyone there is high level, so they don't need common guards. Our hero asks if the pass is there, but the man trembles in fear as the head of the family lives there. The guard warns him that the head is level 42, and they wouldn't stand a chance against him. The man also reveals that the master and the 3rd boss are level 50, but are currently traveling. With a focused look, the protagonist concludes that the level 42 head is guarding the house. So, with the necessary information, he knocks out the guard and calls his friend's name. He tells his classmate to stay there and says they just need a good plan to lure the target out. Soon, our hero returns to the dungeon where the boss remains trapped by the magic chains. He thinks that as long as the boss lives, the dungeon won't disappear and can be explored for a long time. The key to this is to protect the locking mechanism of the chains that hold the monster. The hero smiles because in his past life he learned how to unlock that type of mechanism. Without a second's hesitation, he advances quickly and attacks the guard watching over the boss's chains. The other guards panic when they see the dungeon boss completely free from its chains. To lure out the family head, our hero says that using the level 60 chains is the perfect method. With that, the giant monster becomes furious, and the guards shout that it has entered berserk mode. Outside, the family leader orders his men to reinforce the dungeon immediately. Hidden behind a tree, the protagonist's classmate watches everyone rush into the dungeon. With the level 60 chains in hand, he says they can now easily enter the residence. Meanwhile, at the mansion entrance, the bully and his father arrive and are greeted by a servant. The second head of the family questions his son about his condition, and he blames a moment of carelessness in the fight. With a smile, he opens the car door and invites Miss Yun Sha to step out of the vehicle. Two girls get out of the car, and one of them was the one observing the protagonist at the museum earlier. The second head then welcomes the two guests to his humble residence. But suddenly, the man's expression changes, and he seems to have become very irritated by something. With a kick, he sends a servant flying and yells at the poor soul to get out of his way. The group then enters the mansion, leaving the fallen employee on the ground without any help. Hidden among the trees, our hero's friend continues to watch everything from a distance, staying alert. Our hero approaches, and his friend asks what happened and if this isn't a bad time to invade. The protagonist asks why the long face, and his friend is amazed by his speed. He explains that even a level 30 dungeon lord isn't easy to capture alive. Because of this, they won't be able to defeat the monster anytime soon, and he asks what his friend saw. The boy with glasses looks at the mansion with a grim expression and starts talking about someone. He reveals that the person who is bowing is actually his youngest uncle, named Xiao Li. The friend explains that during Yunshi's rebellion, his ancestors' family had already been wiped out. The protagonist becomes thoughtful, as this meant they didn't face the humiliation that came after. But after that, the Chao family suffered the empire's cruelty at every turn without rest. And with secret orders from the hero Ding Kun, the bullying they endured only worsened over time. In the end, they could only become servants to the Ding family to survive it all. They were paraded around to show the power of the hero family and could only bow to survive. He says that his father's generation also tried to change the situation they lived in, but the result was his father going insane and his uncle becoming the Ding family's dog. With this, he wonders if it was really right to follow the protagonist to this dangerous place. The protagonist turns to his friend and says he needs to go to the inner residence now, but his classmate holds him back, warning him that Ding Shu's father is there and he could be killed if caught. Our hero explains that in this era of controlled dungeons, one must take risks to change their life. He continues, saying that if you hesitate too much and worry too much, some things will never get done. With that, he offers to help him change, but the choice to fight or not must be his friend's alone. The boy with glasses still has doubts and asks if they can really fight against such a powerful family. The protagonist then walks away and says that the person he really wants to face now. At that moment, the friend with glasses seems to finally make up his mind, filled with determination, is the entire empire, and from a distance, he launches a powerful attack toward the mansion. Inside the house, the second head wonders how the dungeon lord managed to break free from its chains. The blonde girl asks if it's a bad time and offers to come back another day with her friend. But the man assures them it's nothing and his older brother can handle the dungeon on his own. He also adds that his father and third brother are already on their way back after hearing about their visit, and that they've also contacted the hero grandpa, who's very eager to meet them. Hidden, the protagonist hears everything and repeats the name of the fake hero Ding Kun with contempt. The hero remembers that to enter the hero's dungeon, one needs a pass and an escort, and that person, judging by the treatment she receives, seems to have a very high status among them. The protagonist notices that the young woman's surname is the same as his and wonders if it's just a coincidence. But he decides to focus on getting the pass for now and enters the mansion stealthily. Meanwhile, the dark-haired girl accompanying her seems to have noticed something suspicious. Two maids walk down the hallway chatting and don't even notice the intruder's presence. Hidden, he continues to move carefully through the mansion to avoid being discovered. With a determined look and glowing eyes, he seems ready to find his objective. He finally arrives at a huge office that appears to belong to the head of the family. Outside, the family head and his men finally manage to suppress the dungeon lord. The leader says the monster was maliciously released, and the risk wasn't for a simple piece of equipment. With that, he orders his men to surround the entire inner residence to find the intruder. He doesn't want any accidents to scare the young and important guest who is visiting them. Back in the office, the protagonist finds nothing and wonders why the guard said there were several passes. He then uses the intangible ability on his hand to search for a secret compartment. The intangible ability allows a brick-sized object to pass through things for 4 seconds. With this, he opens the drawer and finds some books and a diary that catches his attention. Surprised by the discovery, he holds the diary, seeming to have found something very unexpected. But beside it, he also finds several high-quality skill books stored in the drawer. One of the skills is Slow Aura, which reduces the speed of enemies within a 20-meter radius. Meanwhile, Outside the mansion, the guards continue to mobilize throughout the entire area. The protagonist's classmate hides and wonders why all the guards have come to that spot. He thinks the plan was risky, and if the hero doesn't get out soon, he won't have a chance to escape. Scared, he remembers his family's suffering and fears giving them another excuse for bullying. He recalls the tragic past and all the suffering his relatives endured at the hands of the Dings. With that in mind, the boy decides to flee silently to at least save himself from the situation. But his hand trembles, and he seems conflicted with the decision, because otherwise, things will only get worse. At that moment, the memory of the protagonist's words makes him rethink his choice to run. Then suddenly, the boy with glasses shouts with all his might to attract the guard's attention. With the noise, one of the guards finally locates him and points in his direction for the others to come. With a yell, the boy with glasses runs as fast as he can to lure the guards and act as a decoy. Inside the mansion, the hero breaks a window while his friend thinks that he can't let him get caught. Our protagonist realizes that his classmate has finally overcome his fears and decided to fight the enemy. With that, he jumps out and shouts that he has the stolen items, challenging the guards to catch him. The soldiers then switch targets and run with all their might toward the two boys to capture them. With the new skill, he creates an aura that slows down enemies within a 20-meter radius. He jumps with agility and prepares to use the reverse version of his new support ability. Accelerating aura increases his and his friend's speed by 30% for 1 minute. The family head realizes they are running toward the dungeon and orders his squads to return. His classmate is confused by the escape route and asks why he lured everyone there. Our hero explains that with so many guards outside, the dungeon lords should be under control by now. And since they must have fought hard, the dungeon boss's health should be very low right now. The experience bar for his secret ability, Mirror World, is almost full and ready. With a determined look, he thinks that killing the boss will finally level up his strongest skill. Back in the mansion's living room, the atmosphere is calm and everyone is chatting peacefully. The blonde girl comments on the noise and says her uncle doesn't need to worry about keeping her company. But Ding Hao says it's just a thief and his older brother can easily handle everything. Meanwhile, the family head shouts that their speed isn't enough to catch the target. He then orders the scouts and archers to follow him to pursue the intruder inside the dungeon. With a focused look, our hero continues to run toward his objective inside the dungeon. He thinks that each class gains 3 points per level, and he invested half of them in agility. On top of that, the young man also has acceleration skills that further increase his speed. That's why at level 30, only scouts and archers could keep up with his running pace. He finally reaches the spot where the dungeon lord is surrounded by guards, ready for a fight. The hero concludes that now is the monster's weakest moment, and he only needs one blow to win. Suddenly, the guards spot him, and a female warrior shouts for everyone to form a defensive line, fast. With that, all the soldiers prepare for combat and get into an attack position against the boy. But our hero uses the Chaotic Thorns ability and launches energy vines toward them. The soldiers are shocked by the skill and wonder what it is, as they've never seen it before. The ability affects most of them, as human resistance to abnormal statuses isn't like that of monsters. One soldier wonders how the ability was applied so easily, and one of his colleagues gets hit. Another guard is confused by the status effect and doesn't understand how the hit rate is so high. Without wasting time, our hero uses his agility and dodges the attacks to get past the guards. He thinks he just needs to get through the crowd to finally reach the dungeon boss. Desperate, a soldier yells for control skills and complains that the shield bearers are doing nothing. Our hero calls them a disorganized bunch and notes their total lack of team experience. The guard leader shouts for them to hold their ground because if they corner him, he's done for. But the protagonist seizes the chance and launches a powerful attack against the dungeon lord. Suddenly, the family head arrives furiously and orders his men to hold the intruder with everything they've got. With that, the leader equips himself and says he will personally deal with the intruder who caused the mess. Engulfed in flames, the level 42 man charges forward for an aerial attack. Our hero observes the attack and prepares with his weapon in hand for a direct confrontation. With a smirk, the boy seems confident and not at all worried about the powerful enemy. He then uses the chains he stole and thinks that his level isn't high enough to equip them. But he can use the level 60 durability of the chains to defend against the attack. The family leader's fire blow collides with the chains, creating a massive explosion. With the impact, he is thrown backward and uses the momentum to get closer to the monster. Thanking him for the help, he prepares to deliver the final blow to the dungeon lord. The family head shouts furiously as he realizes the intruder tricked him to get to the target. Not caring about the screams, he declares that he will take all the monster's experience for himself. With a focused and determined gaze, the boy defeats the dungeon boss with a single blow. With the victory, he goes up 3 levels at once, reaching level 20 with new attribute points. His secret ability, Mirror World, finally maxes out its experience and evolves to level 2. On the other side, the family leader becomes even more furious and calls him a bastard for his plan. But the protagonist is enveloped in dark energy as the guards shout to capture him. Suddenly, the scene changes, and he finds himself in a strange place looking at a system screen. He then analyzes the details of his secret ability, which has evolved to level 2. Meanwhile, the family head charges forward and attacks the spot where the boy was, but misses. Confused, the leader wonders where the intruder went, and his men find no sign of him. The boy is now in a mirrored world and realizes he has ended up inside the monster's body. Inside the mirrored world, he comes face to face with the phantom versions of the guards who were outside. The boy realizes he's in the mirror world and that he only has 30 minutes to stay there. He's inside the monster's body, but in a mirrored, ghostly version of the location. In this strange place, the hero notices that everything is inverted, as if it were a reflection of the real world. That's why everything around him is on the opposite side and inverted compared to reality. Upon touching one of the guards, he realizes they seem to be just illusions without physical form. Crouching down, he touches the ground and notices that the place isn't made of stone, but of something different. He then picks up a mirror fragment and discovers he can take the item to the real world. From this, he understands that with the skill at level 2, he can take things out of the mirror world. The boy wonders if the system interface also changed along with his special ability. With that, he opens the skill list and finds several new unactivated techniques. The protagonist points at the screen, confused, and wonders why he can't use the new skills. He understands that the list shows the inverted forms of all the skills he can potentially learn. But to activate them, he first needs to learn the base ability in the real world, which surprises him. This way, he can choose the strongest skill combos and plan his class evolution in advance. But suddenly, the protagonist notices something strange and looks back with an attentive expression. High up in the cave, he sees a soul floating and wonders what that ghostly thing is. Looking more closely, he notices there are several other souls trapped in that place. Suddenly, one of the souls transforms into a flaming skeleton and charges to attack. The hero is startled by the transformation and prepares to fight the new undead monster. With a single blow from his weapon, he shatters the skeleton monster into multiple pieces of glass. The boy concludes that the enemy isn't that strong and can be defeated easily. But at that moment, a system notification surprises him, and he gets a thoughtful look. The screen offers a contract with the soul, so it can fight for him in the real world. He then understands that by defeating the undead, he can turn them into his servants. The hero realizes that the mirror world can bring not only items, but also undead. With this new discovery, he finds it all very interesting and continues to explore the place. Back in the real world, the guards are confused because the dungeon disappeared, but the boy didn't show up. They wonder how the intruder vanished, and if it could be a stealth ability. But a scout denies it, saying that stealth has a duration and wouldn't be completely undetectable. Furious, the leader grabs one of his men and yells about how they let the intruder escape. He continues shouting that if they don't find him, they will have to pay for the destroyed dungeon. But at that exact moment, the protagonist reappears right in front of the two surprised men. The time for his ability has run out, and he wonders if he returned to the same spot as before. Upon seeing him, the family head yells at his men to grab the intruder immediately without hesitation. But the boy tells them not to rush and that now it's time to return the favor they did for him. With that, he summons an army of skeletons to fight against the Ding family guards. The soldiers are shocked and wonder what those things are and if they are ghosts. One of the captains shouts for them not to panic, as they are just common undead monsters. One of the guards defends against the skeleton's attack with his shield and prepares to fight back. He then realizes that the monsters have status bars and are only level 20 at most. The family head shouts again for them not to panic over such weak enemies. He orders a counterattack and offers a bonus to whoever captures the intruder first. While the guards fight, one of them notices that the boy has disappeared and asks where he went. Hidden, he watches the fight and thinks that his undead are still too low level. He thinks that if he had stronger undead, the fight would be much easier now. With a powerful army, those disorganized guards wouldn't stand a chance of winning. The boy laments because of the ones he found. He has already contracted the 20 strongest undead. He remembers that in the mirror world, he could only explore an area of 200 meters. Because of this, he needs to explore the mirrored world from another location to find better undead. While the guards are distracted by the skeletons, he takes the chance to escape the area. But a soldier manages to capture his friend and threatens him to get a fat reward. Without a second thought, our hero acts quickly and fights the guards to save his classmate. The boy with glasses seems to have finally found his courage and faces the enemies without fear. With that, he pushes the protagonist away and tells him to run while he distracts the guards. The protagonist realizes the situation has turned chaotic and decides it's time to retreat and count his profits. The battle between the skeletons and the Ding family men continues with great intensity and chaos. One of the soldiers finally manages to destroy one of the undead with a well-aimed blow from his weapon. He complains that the skeletons aren't strong, but a detail leaves him completely surprised. The defeated monster simply reconstructs itself and returns to the fight as if nothing had happened. The skeletons endlessly rebuild themselves and continue to attack the guards, who don't know how to fight back. Suddenly, a man appears, observing the battle with a confident smile on his face. He is the third head of the family and says they just need to kill the monsters a few times to exhaust their mana. Meanwhile, the family master questions if the important guest has already returned to her home. In the inner residence, the son apologizes to his father for failing to keep the young lady due to the intruder. The man explains that the intruders ran through the property and even broke one of the house's windows. The level 57 master is furious because they didn't catch the thieves and don't even know who they are. With that, the son just lowers his head and takes all the blame for the failure. But he says the young lady agreed to go to the hero's dungeon, and the matter with the grandfather has been resolved. Still angry, the father declares that when they find those responsible, they will be eliminated on the spot. He then tells his son to quickly check if anything else important was stolen from the mansion. Far away, our hero analyzes the temporary access pass he managed to get during the invasion. He thinks that he has the pass, but he still needs someone to take him to the hero's dungeon. The boy reflects that in the Ding's house, he managed to evolve and reach level 20. Although the ring was destroyed, he took more than 10 skill books from their private collection. Analyzing the books, he realizes that the enchanter skills are all support abilities for battle. One of them increases critical hit rate and damage but lowers defense, and he can stack these attributes. The reverse version of the skill greatly increases his defense, but in return, lowers his critical hit rate. With this, he can crush enemies of the same level with just stats and gains a passive skill. On top of that, the Dungeon Lord dropped a rare piece of armor that will be very useful to him in the future. But the most important part was that his Mirror World ability finally evolved to level 2. The boy reflects that the necromantic summons he made greatly increased his combat power. But he knows it's still not enough, as the fake hero is at least an S-rank berserker. To stand a chance, he needs a spirit of the same rank and to be at level 50 or higher. At that moment, his friend calls out to him and asks if they won't be caught by the Ding family guards. The protagonist smiles and reassures him, saying they've already shaken off the enemies and they didn't see their faces. Despite his classmates' words, the boy with glasses remains very worried about the whole situation. Seeing his friend's concern, the protagonist asks if there are any dungeons nearby where someone strong has died. His classmate repeats the question, confused, and the hero confirms he wants a high-level dungeon to level up. The boy with glasses thinks for a moment and says that there is indeed a place exactly as he described. The protagonist thinks that since it's a monopolized dungeon, he'll have to use special methods to get in. Sometime later, he hands a rare skill book to his teacher as a gift. Shocked, the master sees that it's a rare purple book for his class and wonders what the reason for this is. He thinks the boy must have strong backing but says he can't help because access to the dungeon is fixed. The teacher explains that the dungeon was opened only for graduating students and freshmen can't go. But he reveals that an excellent student can enter the place with a master's recommendation. With that, he promises to fight for a spot for the boy, and soon they are inside the school dungeon. Inside, a student says this might be his last dungeon and that he needs to kill as many monsters as possible. Another student thanks the fake hero for the opportunity to enter that special place. Our protagonist observes the area and, with a serious look, realizes that something isn't right with the dungeon. The master says that this is the Valiant Dungeon, a gift from the hero, and that he has fought there before. Behind him, his friend Chao Ji also seems to notice something strange about the story the teacher is telling. The boy with glasses thinks that this was the place where the hero killed the traitor Chao En, his ancestor. With this, he wonders whether or not he should tell his friend the whole truth about that dungeon. The teacher warns them of the danger and asks a student named Ji to look after the two boys in the dungeon. The student complains that if he has to take care of the two, he won't be able to level up himself. The teacher ignores him and pushes him into the dungeon while he grumbles about the freshman being there. Issy complains that it's annoying to have to take care of two deadweights and moves to the front of the group. He warns them to stay behind and not get in his way or else they'll be left behind. The protagonist feels that the level 20 to 40 dungeon has a very dangerous feel to it. With a focused and attentive look, he senses that something very bad is about to happen there. Inside the dungeon, the group of students and the teacher walk through a corridor of crystals. Inside, the protagonist is surprised to see the blonde girl and the dark-haired girl who were at the mansion. He wonders how the two girls managed to get there, since they aren't graduating students either. Kazi turns to them and points out that the two girls are also freshmen and are in the dungeon. With a smile, he says it would be great to switch places with them and escort the two young ladies. He gets all excited about the idea and imagines he might even have a chance with them. But one of his friends warns him to stop dreaming, as the two are on a whole other level. Ji gets annoyed with his friend and says he was just kidding to hide his embarrassment. While they argue, our hero just watches them in silence with a serious and calculating expression. The two girls walk away, completely ignoring the student who was watching them earlier. To everyone's surprise, they walk toward our hero and his friend Chao Ji. The protagonist is confused as the blonde girl who was an important guest of the Dings is here. He wonders why she's approaching and if she knew his body's original owner. With a smile, the girl says she saw him at the memorial and that his skills and voice are unique. Not understanding the reason for the conversation, he wonders if she's just making small talk with him. With her eyes shining, she reveals that his voice was easy to recognize even with all the noise. Our hero is shocked as the girl recognized him just from the 2 sentences he shouted during the invasion. She then equips herself in a mage outfit and says that for today, their conversation is over. Her friend also equips her gear, and the two say they're going to start exploring the dungeon on their own. The boy thinks that she didn't expose him and wonders if that was actually some kind of warning. He reflects that Ding Shu might have also recognized their voices during all the confusion. But the hero concludes that with his rate of evolution, he soon won't have to worry anymore. Since they were friendly, he decides to return the favor and give the 2 of them a warning. He shouts for them to be careful, as the dungeon has a very dangerous aura nearby. The blonde girl agrees that the place seems strange and that at her level it shouldn't be like this. With a smile, she thanks him for the warning and walks away, leaving the boy behind. The other students are shocked, because the girl is usually cold and wonder why she spoke to him. With that, they surround the protagonist and ask how he knows her and if he can introduce them. But the hero ignores them and tells his friend that it's time for them to go on their own. The students are shocked and warn him that the monsters are level 20 and they could die. Gesei then tells the group to let the 2 go on their own and not to mess with them. He thinks that to be on good terms with the girl, the boy's level must not be low. The others are confused, as the teacher asks them to look after the 2 freshmen in the dungeon. Xi reminds them of their purpose there and says the fewer people who know about the location, the better. He talks about the precious crystals and that they should ignore them because they all have a distress signal. Envious, the upperclassman wonders why a simple boy is with a girl like that. He thinks that if the boy is so confident, then he deserves to die for his arrogance in this place. Meanwhile, at the dungeon entrance, the bully Ding Shu arrives, running and out of breath. The teacher greets him along with a female adventurer and asks what he's doing there. The bully grabs the teacher and asks what he's trying to do by letting the team enter. With a furious look, he questions if Yunshe and Xiaozi are in the dungeon to get revenge on him. But the third head of the family warns him not to blame the 2 for getting beaten up at the memorial. The boy yells that they were the ones who invaded the mansion and that he recognized their voices. Calmly, the chief says the intruders escaped from many guards, something a student couldn't do. He continues, saying the young man needs to prove their strength surpasses that of the guards, otherwise he can't help. The master of the family appears and tells the 2 to stop, as they are discussing important matters there. Furious, the bully shouts that he needs to enter the dungeon because the 2 boys are already inside. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, a crystal giant emerges from the ground and charges to attack the friends. Our hero doesn't waste time and attacks the level 20 monster with his energy-filled weapon, but an even larger level 30 monster fires a powerful energy beam at the boy. To defend himself, he creates a reflection shield and blocks the crystal giant's attack. With that, he shouts for his friend Xiaoji to use an enveloping shield and protect him from danger. The classmate then uses his ability and creates winged shields with high durability around the hero. On top of that, he uses a motivational shout that increases the protagonist's attack and speed. With that, the crystal giant charges at the 2 boys with a powerful attack. But our hero is not intimidated and retaliates with a strong, energy-filled blow against the creature. Using Deceitful Blade, he destroys the monster as his ability is about to run out. With the victory, he finally levels up to 21 and gains 3 more attribute points. His friend Chao Ji is also very happy and celebrates that he managed to level up once more. The boy with glasses is now level 11, and his shield bearer class has become even stronger. The protagonist explains that among the books they stole were the skills his classmate just used. He thinks that even with the strong monsters, his friend's abilities make the fight easier. Then he remembers the teacher said that a rare obsidian beast lives in that dungeon. Killing the creature has a chance to drop the support skill called Gravitational Pull. This is the same skill he marked as essential on his Mirror World list. Besides the obsidian beast, he knows that there are also undead in that dungeon. He believes the souls of the dead adventurers must still be near where they fell. With this hope, he continues to explore until he suddenly notices something suspicious nearby. Atop a rock, he finally finds the obsidian beast, but it's corrupted. The 2 friends watch the obsidian beast moving through the crystal canyon. Hidden, they notice that the monsters are acting in a very strange and unusual way. They realize the elite-level beasts are moving together and have already traveled a kilometer. With this, our hero reflects on the type of monster called a wanderer in dungeons. They are rare creatures that don't have a fixed spawn location and roam the dungeon map. These monsters are much stronger than typical ones and love to hunt their prey with brutality. Before humans became more powerful, encountering one of these monsters was a huge problem. To defeat them, brute force was necessary as they were very resistant to attacks. They could even leave the confines of the dungeon and threaten human settlements. These monsters have caused numerous dungeon-related disasters in the distant past, but in exchange for the great risk they posed to all adventurers of that time, The experience and loot they left behind far surpassed that of common monsters. The boy thinks that the corrupted obsidian beasts are too strong to face head-on. With that, he decides he needs to test the monster's abilities first before attacking. Observing one of the creatures, he discovers it has a continuous healing skill. In addition to healing, the creature can also fire a powerful mana beam. Because of this, he needs to dodge a shower of attacks coming his way. But he complains that the monster's attacks are too frequent and fast. With a serious look, he notes that not even his high speed can dodge everything. He thinks his health and defense are low, and he was saved by his friend's shield. So he has no choice but to summon his undead to help in the fight. But he realizes that not even his skeleton servants can hold the line. Fortunately, the creatures are relatively slow, and he can dodge. He reflects that his health and defense won't improve anytime soon to withstand the hits. To defeat them, he will have to rely on his friend's defense buffs. With that, he remembers seeing several monsters that are perfect for his classmate. In group fights, the shield bearer is the main line of defense for everyone. This way, the other classes can hide behind him to attack more effectively. With points in defense and the stolen armor, his friend became much stronger. With this, he now has the defense of a true elite shield bearer. The protagonist begins to train his friend, teaching him to maintain a firm stance in battle. He tells his classmate to angle the shield towards the blow and defend against the monster. The boy with glasses notices that his shield's durability is decreasing more slowly now. Our hero warns him to be careful with the crystal creature's next attacks. With that, the monster attacks him and our protagonist intervenes to destroy the creature's arm. He explains that his friend must anticipate attacks and leave room for a counterattack. He also teaches him to stay relaxed but tense at the exact moment of defense. With a tap on his friend's shoulder, he encourages him to keep up the good work. The hero says that as a shield bearer, his classmate must always protect those behind him. The boy with glasses smiles, seeming to have understood his friend's lesson perfectly. With that, he reminds him that when stats are similar, technique decides the winner. With their teamwork, the protagonist finally manages to level up to 22. He thinks that with his friend getting stronger, he can also gain more experience from fights. Kaoji celebrates reaching level 15 and becoming even stronger with the training. Now he can learn a rare shield armor skill to increase his defense. With that, the boy with glasses learns the new ability and feels stronger for the fight. The protagonist thinks that this was the last skill book from the Ding family that his friend could use. The new technique adds an external armor to the summoned shield, making it much more resilient. With the defense boost from the shield armor, they can finally face the elite monsters. Meanwhile, in the Crystal Pillar Canyon, a group of teachers observes the monsters. They wonder where so many wanderers came from and know they are too dangerous for the students. One of them comments that they can handle level 30 monsters, but the elites are another story. But suddenly, a student's distress signal appears in the sky, catching everyone's attention. They decide they need to rescue the students first, but worry about the threat of the monsters. With that, one of the instructors offers to stay behind and watch the creatures as a precaution. The leader agrees and tells Old Bai to stay and warn them if anything bad happens there. Our hero appears and offers to keep watch, as 2 teachers might not be enough for the rescue. The boy explains that the creatures aren't very fast and haven't noticed their presence yet. With that, he tells the masters to go without worry, as he can handle watching the area. The teachers agree but warn him not to act on his own, as the monsters are dangerous. He then warns him to make sure he stays hidden and isn't seen by the monsters. As they leave, the masters shout for him to hide well because if he's discovered, he won't escape. But with a confident smile, the boy thinks it's the creatures who won't be able to escape. Without wasting time, he charges forward to attack as the monster fires a powerful mana beam. With that, his friend uses shield armor to protect himself from the elite enemy's attacks. The protagonist then uses his skeletons as a barrier to block the energy beams. Even with the defense, one of his undead is completely destroyed by the creature's attack. The hero seizes the chance and uses his own abilities to trap the crystal monster. He then charges forward and delivers a strong blow that shatters the elite wanderer's tough armor. He realizes the creature is almost defeated and prepares one last attack with all his strength. With a final blow, the boy shatters the obsidian beast into several crystal pieces. The level 30 monster is finally defeated and the boy observes the creature's remains. He thinks he managed to take care of a wanderer and is getting used to his new class. But he remembers his past life and knows he still has a long way to go to reach his former power. The hero concludes that even with the inverted skills, he can greatly increase his attack power. But the base attack of a support class is still low, and he wished his power were greater. With the victory, he gains the Giant Warrior Slayer and Agent titles from the system. Because of this, he levels up again and thinks that elite monsters give a lot of experience. With that, he approaches the creature's remains to pick up the items that were dropped in the battle. A loot notification appears, and he looks carefully at the item he managed to get from the monster. To his surprise, he gets a crystal longsword that increases his attack by 552. With a smile, he thinks the new weapon perfectly compensates for his lack of base attack power. With that, he equips the sword and believes that fights will be much easier with the new weapon. But he laments that the skill book he wanted didn't drop and that the drop rate isn't very high. While wishing to find more monsters, he sees a red distress signal in the sky and becomes alert. One of the teachers sees the signal and recognizes it as a special alert only for master teams. With a furious look, the master prepares for battle with his golden shield in hand. He wonders why so many obsidian beasts are gathered in that part of the dungeon. From a distance, you can see the army of monsters surrounding the small group of teachers in the cave. The two girls are also with the masters and wonder what happened to make so many monsters gather there. One of the teachers explains that they don't know for sure what happened and only came after seeing the signal. He then points to the cave and says the signal is coming from there and they must be trapped inside. He says they are organizing the rescue, but there are too many monsters and even with all the teachers, it won't be enough. With that, one of the instructors asks the two girls to help as well if possible. With a confident look, the blonde girl says that helping with the rescue is their duty. With that, the blonde girl prepares to use one of her light magic abilities. She then uses her mystic art of starlight skill to strengthen all her allies. The technique increases everyone's spirit and attack power and seems to be of epic grade. Meanwhile, the other girl uses a gravitational pressure ability to crush the monsters. Right after, she attacks with her hidden thorn skill to finish off the creatures. The students are impressed and say that with their strength, the rescue will be possible now. The hero reflects that their skills and equipment are top-notch, and his help isn't necessary. He then wonders what could have attracted so many monsters to gather in that place. With that, he tells his friend to stay with the group, as he will go ahead to investigate the situation. To do this, the boy uses his mirror step ability and enters the inverted world to explore. He thinks that since the place is covered in crystals, he can enter the mirrored world at any time. But he remembers that at the Ding's house, he couldn't return to the inverted world after the time ran out. He concludes that he still doesn't understand the mechanism to return to reality at will. The boy wonders why people have ghosts, but monsters don't in the mirrored world. He theorizes that perhaps only living beings lack a physical form in the mirror world. With that, he enters the cave and finds the ghostly versions of the student group. Inside, he finds the students who attracted the monsters and activated the rescue signal. They are using the narrow terrain to protect themselves and should be safe for a while. The hero hides behind the crystals, but the view of the place makes it difficult to judge the path. Suddenly, he is surprised to find something unexpected and very valuable inside the cave. He finds a special crystal ore and understands why Xiao Zi's group came to that place. Unlike the crystals in the outside world, these ores are special and very rare to find. Dungeons can produce special items that professionals with life skills can use to create equipment. These ores are an example of this, and their value surpasses that of an equal weight in gold. Upon touching the crystal, the system says he can take it to the real world, and he is surprised by the option. The hero wonders if he can return to the real world by touching the special crystal. With that, he confirms he can use the crystal to return to reality and becomes thoughtful. The boy smiles because now he knows he can return from any mirrored surface he finds. He understands that the skill has more secrets and he needs time to study it better. But for now, he decides the best thing to do is to explore the rest of that strange place. The hero notes the amount of ore and thinks that this could make anyone a billionaire. With this, he understands why so many wandering monsters were attracted to that location. Meanwhile, in the real world, the dark-haired girl uses her dual blade dance. One of the teachers is shocked and wonders if their skills are epic grade. With a powerful attack, the girl manages to destroy another crystal monster. After the victory, the rescue group finally manages to enter the cave and save the students. Relieved, one of the students celebrates as he thought he was going to die trapped in that place. But the dark-haired girl warns him not to let his guard down, as they are not safe yet. The blonde girl, however, says that despite everything, it should be easier to leave the dungeon now. But suddenly, she notices something suspicious and looks to the side with an attentive gaze. The rescued students panic at the sight before them. A horde of crystal monsters remains standing, blocking the way out. One of them wonders if all the wandering creatures from the dungeon came here. Meanwhile, in the mirror world, our hero continues his secret exploration. He moves easily among the reflections of the various crystals in that cave. The boy notes that the mirrored cave looks like a large, confusing maze. But suddenly, something much larger catches his attention, and he stops walking immediately. At the back of the cave, he finds a giant, shining crystal formation. He approaches the item and wonders if that is the dungeon's secret treasure. The boy understands that if the ores are the product, the core is the secret treasure. A secret treasure is the condensed form of the products and takes a very long time to form. That's why a common person might never see such a rare item in their entire life. With a smile, he knows that every secret treasure has a unique special effect. The item increases stamina and mana recovery, as well as providing damage resistance. He thinks that with more stamina and mana, he can use his deceitful blade more often. Furthermore, the damage reduction is a rare effect even on the highest level equipment, but he finds it strange that there isn't a guardian monster protecting the treasure. He thinks that a dungeon with a secret treasure should have a much stronger monster. With no time to waste, he decides to take the treasure and leave the mirrored world immediately. But the system warns him that to take the item, he needs to spend 10 minutes of his time in the mirror. Suddenly, in the real world, the cave begins to shake, and everyone is startled by what's to come. The two girls look back and sense that a great threat is about to appear there. The cave walls open up, and a giant crystal monster emerges before everyone. The group of students and teachers despairs at the sight of the dungeon's hidden boss right in front of them. The Wandering Lord is a rare hidden boss that exists independently of the Dungeon Lord. That's why its strength is much greater than that of a common lord, and it is much more dangerous. The monster's power is far beyond what the teachers and students can handle. One of the students is shocked, as Wandering Lords are only supposed to appear in high-level dungeons. Scared, one of the students yells that if they don't flee soon, they will all die in that place. But the blonde girl seems to have an idea and smiles confidently in the face of the great threat. The blonde girl shouts for everyone to calm down and says they need to work together to escape. She points to a canyon and says that is the only escape route they have at the moment. The mage explains that if they can get out of that basin, they will be able to escape more easily. With that, she uses her mystic art of starlight and tells everyone to use their full strength to advance. The protagonist's friend agrees and activates his light-refracting shield to protect the other students. One of the teachers takes the lead and says they will take turns to open a path with their attacks. With that, one of the students uses his shield to defend against a crystal monster's blow in front. Right after, a powerful golden attack clears a path through the horde of enemy creatures. The dark-haired girl uses a support skill to help the student on the front line, but the group is still surrounded by a gigantic horde of crystal monsters from all sides. The teacher shouts for everyone to hold on, as the exit is not too far from that place. Suddenly, the Wandering Lord uses a battle cry and commands all the other monsters to attack. The boss's ability strengthens the smaller creatures, making them even stronger and more aggressive. With that, the army of strengthened monsters advances toward the small rescue group. One of the students panics and wonders where so many monsters came from all at once. With that, the Wandering Lord wastes no time and unleashes its powerful crystal aura on everyone there. The ability increases the smaller monster's health, attack, and defense by 20%. One of the students is shocked and wonders how the creature's power increased so much all of a sudden. One of the teachers gets hit and shouts that the damage is too high for his healing to keep up. He begs for help but is completely overwhelmed by the enemy's energy beams. One of the students panics and shouts that one of the teachers was defeated in the battle. The blonde girl orders the shield bearers to the front and the healers to prioritize healing them. She thinks that everyone is already exhausted and the giant boss hasn't even started moving yet. One of the masters says it's useless and that at this rate, they will never be able to get past the monsters. With that, one of the teachers uses his stealth and decides to abandon the group to flee alone. The hooded master shouts that it's every man for himself now and leaves everyone behind without hesitation. He then runs along the cave walls to try to escape the army of crystal creatures. The protagonist's friend warns him that the duration of his stealth won't be enough to escape from there. Suddenly, amidst the monsters, a small blue ripple appears on the ground, drawing attention. The boy with glasses is surprised as something totally unexpected just happened right in front of him. The giant boss then charges an energy attack, and the hero's friend warns everyone to be careful. With that, the creature fires a purple beam that hits the fleeing teacher and explodes with force. Shocked, the boy with glasses says that the Wandering Lord turned the traitorous master to ashes. The monster's powerful attack ended up blocking the only exit the group had to escape. A student shouts that besides defeating the teacher, the attack also destroyed the entire canyon. In a panic, he says the boss's attack power is absurd and they can no longer escape. Without giving the group time to breathe, the giant creature prepares another devastating attack in their direction. Desperate, one of the students shouts that this is the end, as the boss is coming for everyone. He says it's impossible to block the attack while the two girls prepare for the worst. But Xiaoji uses his ability and summons a giant Rocky Mountain shield to defend himself. The item is a level 70 epic shield that provides 3000 defense and 80 resistance. With a great impact, the shield manages to defend against the Wandering Lord's powerful attack for a while. The boy with glasses shouts for the strongest to help him hold the shield, or it will be the end for them. The blonde girl says that being a level 70 item, its durability is guaranteed in battle. But she laments that no one has the level to equip it, and this will only buy them a little time. One of the rescued students despairs and asks why the school's dungeon has this monster. Another student blames Yi's group and Xiaoji reflects on whether their rescue was in vain. The protagonist's friend gets frustrated with the desperate situation they are all in. He laments that at least the two freshmen shouldn't have rushed into danger like that. But he is suddenly surprised to see our hero's friend helping to hold the shield. The boy with glasses wonders how the student got there, as he should have stayed in the valley. As they defend themselves, a crystal monster charges to attack an unprotected student. At that moment, the protagonist's friend doesn't hesitate and uses his enveloping shield to protect his classmate from danger. The ability manages to block the energy beam that was about to hit the student named Zhang. Zhang is shocked because his own perimeter defense was broken first. He thinks that now there's no one left who can stop the wandering species that surround them. The boy with glasses then throws himself in front of Zhang to defend him from a monster's blow. The student is surprised by the action and wonders where that boy's strength came from. But the situation worsens as the other guard's shields are also destroyed in the battle. With that, one of the students screams in despair as their entire defense has been completely annihilated. The boy with glasses falls to the ground, gravely injured, as a monster prepares for the final blow. One of the rescued students looks at the scene with a look of pure despair and hopelessness. But suddenly, our hero appears in the middle of the confusion and attacks the monsters with his sword. Zhang observes the boy's sudden arrival and is surprised by his appearance at the scene. With his shining sword in hand, the protagonist praises his friend for his excellent work. Even injured and on the ground, the boy with glasses points at the hero with a look of confidence. With a confident smile, he then tells his classmate to leave the rest of the fight to him. The scene returns to the mirror world, where the boy found the original secret treasure. He thinks that with his mirrored ability, he will be able to double all his future harvests. But the hero notes that the crystal ores he found are still difficult to take out of there. The system warns him that to take 75 ores, he needs 750 minutes. He sees that, just like the treasure, each crystal requires 10 minutes of his time in the mirror. So he decides to take only the replica of the crystal core, as it is the most valuable. With that, he uses both cores and gains more stamina and immunity to electric and light damage. Back in the mirrored world, he is on top of the core when he notices something strange nearby. With a serious look, he feels a strong vibration and wonders what is happening outside. With that, he decides to return to the real world and see what is happening with his friends. The boy tests if he can exit the mirror world from that specific point in the cave. With that, he enters the crystal reflections and sees that he still has 12 minutes of time left. He understands that before the time runs out, he can enter and exit the mirrored world whenever he wants. But he knows that when the time runs out, the ability will go into a cooldown period. With no time to waste, the hero breaks the barrier between the worlds to return to reality. The system then informs him that he has successfully exited the mirror world and is back to normal. He notes that the number of monsters has increased, and there shouldn't be so many just for the crystal ore. Then he sees the Wandering Lord and understands that it was the source of the dangerous aura he felt before. The protagonist realizes that his friend Xiao Ji and the others are in great danger there, but now that he can enter and exit the mirrored world, he has a plan to fight the boss. With that, he enters the mirror world again to prepare for his next attack. He thinks that this way he can dodge the monster's attacks much more easily than before. The boy reflects that he is now level 24, and his strength has increased significantly. He calculates that his total mana is now 140 as he attacks the crystal creatures. With the treasures, his mana recovery can increase his power by 330%. His deceitful blade increases his attack by 180% for 8 seconds. But he knows that to face the Wandering Lord, he needs to reach at least level 30. Looking at his friend's ghosts, he knows he is still very far from his final goal. In the mirrored world, he observes the specters of his friends fighting desperately. With that, he exits the mirror world and returns to reality to help his friends. He then praises his friend Chao Zi for his good work and prepares to join the fight. Even injured, the boy with glasses smiles and tells him to leave the rest of the battle in his hands. The protagonist exits the mirror world again, stepping into reality with a new plan. Without hesitation, he shouts for anyone with support skills to buff him for combat. With a confident look, he tells everyone that he will take care of the wandering species by himself. The blonde girl wastes no time and uses her mystic art of starlight to help him in the fight. His friend also gets up and uses his enveloping shield armor to provide support. With the buff, he gains more spirit and a 20% attack boost and charges at the monsters. The hero reflects that with the treasures, his health has increased and he has a 40% damage reduction. With that, he attacks but laments that the monsters are immune to confusion and the fight will be longer. The other students are completely shocked by what they are seeing in front of them. One of the students asks why his attack power is so high and what skill makes him teleport. Zhang is surprised by the hero's strength and regrets worrying about him for nothing. Without wasting time, he continues to attack the crystal creatures with a shower of powerful blows. With the victory, he levels up and thinks that with so many rare monsters, leveling up becomes easier. The blonde girl observes him and thinks that he wasn't just a daring thief as she had imagined. She is shocked because the boy's strength has far surpassed all her previous expectations. The dark-haired girl also watches him in silence, seeming very impressed by the scene. Using his ability, he enters and exits the mirror world to dodge and attack the monsters. His strategy of using the mirrored world to fight proves to be very effective against the horde. With the slaughter, he goes up 3 more levels, reaching level 28 all at once. Zhang wonders if he is a reinforcement from outside, but remembers seeing him in the dungeon before. He then says that the boy is just a student, and his classmate is incredulous at the revelation. Continuing his attack, he destroys a few more crystal monsters with his sword. But Zhang gets worried and warns that the giant boss is about to attack again. The Wandering Lord fires its beam, and the hero appears in front to face the attack. He thinks that even now, he couldn't withstand the creature's powerful blow. With that, the boss starts to move as its energy beam explodes with force. The boy reflects that if the boss gets closer, the 2 shields won't be able to protect them. Zhang then shouts that the number of monsters has decreased, and they should flee through the other exit. He worries because no matter how strong the hero is, he can't fight the Wandering Lord. One of the students complains that the shields are hard to move and would expose them to the boss. A female student agrees, saying they can only be moved if stored in the inventory. Suddenly, a voice tells them to leave it to him, and the girl is surprised. Our hero then offers to attack and lure the boss, while the group escapes. Zhang is shocked and asks what will happen to him if the group flees. The boy explains that if the boss isn't stopped, it will wander into the outside world with the monsters. He remembers that in the past, almost all major disasters were caused by wandering lords. With a determined look, he says he will stay behind and slaughter the giant monster. Yang tells everyone to scram, figuring the hero's power has to run out eventually. He then says that if the group gets out of there fast enough, the main character can make a clean getaway too. One student doubts the guy is actually going to take on the boss, while another thinks it was all just talk to calm everyone down. His friend chimes in that, at the end of the day, that thing is the mighty Wandering Lord. He feels like a total zero for just running away and hopes Yunqi doesn't get into any more trouble. Meanwhile, the hero is still duking it out with the crystal monsters, and even levels up right in the middle of the brawl. The Wandering Lord fires its energy beam, but our guy uses Mirror Walk to dodge it. Just then, the system notifies him that he's left the mirror world, popping up right next to the big monster. Without a second thought, he brings his sword down hard on the giant creature. He realizes the monster's defense is insane, and the damage he dealt was healed instantly. Looking at the beast, he understands this situation is way more intense than he first thought. He figures the crystal on the monster's head must be its core. In other words, its weak spot. Even knowing that, he takes a hit and gets ticked off that his attack power isn't high enough. He's now level 29 with just a bit of mana left for the fight. The system shows that his friend's buffs are wearing off, and he needs to be quick to turn the tables. He realizes that without the buffs and with low mana, he won't be able to use his blade for much longer. Because of that, the guy decides his top priority now is to level up so he can stay in the fight. Out of nowhere, a super bright light starts shining from a crack in the ground. With a surprised look, the boy just stares at the mysterious light that appeared mid-combat. Then, the Wandering Lord shoots a sinister energy beam toward that light. Back in the mirror world, he's annoyed because the monster predicted exactly where he was going to pop out. As he exits the other dimension, he's hit head-on, and the system shows he lost 50 health. The damage keeps coming, and he realizes he's caught in the middle of a massive, continuous attack from the boss. As he runs to dodge, he laments that his mirror walk's duration is almost up. A notification pops up showing he only has 3 minutes and 46 seconds of the skill left. With few options, he figures the only way out is to use his undead to tank the hit, but summoning them costs mana, and then he wouldn't have enough to attack the monster afterward. With that in mind, he considers falling back for a bit to recover before jumping back into the fray. But suddenly, a light bulb goes off, and a glimmer of hope appears in his eyes. Turning around, he sees his friends who have come back, and asks why the heck they're there to help. The blonde girl explains that his friend begged so much they had no choice but to come back. The guy in armor denies he begged and says that with fewer monsters around, the others can escape on their own. With a huge grin on his face, the hero just thanks his partners for the help. The girl in the hat then says the boss is way too dangerous, and that they'll provide cover for him to escape. But our hero refuses and gets ready to continue the fight against the crystal creature. He says that with their support, he doesn't have to hold back anymore and can go all out. Just then, he finally hits level 30, and his stats get a nice boost for the fight. He then thinks that his attack power is now sufficient and equips a new, powerful item. The Corrupted Knight's armor is a rare, level 30 item he got from the last lord he took down. The blonde girl asks if he's going for the weak spot, but thinks it's impossible to get up that high. The hero then shows a glowing book, and says he finally got what he desperately needed for this fight. The system displays the skill Gravitational Pull, which costs 10 mana and pulls things toward him. The other skill is its reverse, which also costs 10 mana, but pulls him toward the target instead. With his new technique, he uses his blade to boost his attack, and says everything's under control. Without hesitating, he extends his hand toward the giant monster, preparing to use his new power. In a swift motion, he activates the skill, and a sinister purple energy envelops his arm. At that, the surrounding rocks begin to float, and are pulled toward him by the force of the technique. Using the reverse skill, he flies straight toward the giant monster's weak spot. The two girls watch the scene, jaws dropped, at their partner's crazy strategy. With a perfect strike, he hits the crystal on the creature's head and deals some insane damage. The Wandering Lord explodes in an intense flash of light, and the system warns that the hero's health is dropping. Even after winning, the guy gets caught in the blast and continues to lose 107 health. With a pained expression, he endures the damage from the explosion as his health plummets. The crystal shatters completely, and we see he's left with very little health and almost no mana after the final blow. The system then informs him that he has defeated the Wandering Lord, gaining experience, titles, and 2 skilled books. With the victory, he levels up 3 times in a row, becoming even stronger. His stats show he's reached level 33 and now has 9 points to distribute. His friends are completely floored, not expecting the guy to be so powerful. Suddenly, 2 golden lights appear, and our hero realizes they're 2 legendary items. He then moves closer to see what rewards he got for taking out the dungeon boss. The blonde girl yells that the giant monster is falling and warns the hero to be careful. Just then, the boy is carried away with the creature's debris, plummeting toward the ground. The monster's body hits the ground, causing a huge impact and kicking up a heck of a dust cloud. His friend in armor is astonished by what he sees after the dust settles. He realizes the creature's body was actually a hollow mountain filled with crystals on the inside. Down inside, the hero finds the remains of monsters and humans scattered across the floor. From this, he imagines that an even stronger Wandering Lord was born there a long time ago. The guy understands that's why the place is marked by such an intense battle. Looking at the scene, he spots something strange on top of a crystal mountain and gets curious. There, he finds the body of a warrior, and the system informs him his name was Kiao En. Our hero then approaches, calling out a strange name as he looks up. He observes the body of the warrior, who perished kneeling, holding his sword embedded in the crystals. The blonde girl recognizes the man as the traitor, Kiao En, and says the hero Ding Kun met his end there. But she didn't expect to find this scene, and sees another warrior's body with a shield. At that, the girl understands the place was the stage for a nasty fight against both monsters and people. She says the scene is very different from the statues that show the man being trampled by others. Hearing all this, the hero remains quiet, just processing the new information. Then, the friend in armor reveals that his great-grandfather maybe wasn't such a bad guy after all. He says that he's been researching his ancestors' history since he was a kid, but the descriptions were always vague. Despite that, he discovered that his relative always went to dungeons that didn't match his level. He questions why an S-rank professional at level 60 would come to such a weak dungeon. The young man then reveals it was because that dungeon could spawn a powerful Wandering Lord. He explains that these creatures are the source of catastrophes that summon monsters outside the portal. Back in the day, officials didn't have armies to defend the world from so many monsters. So, they relied on powerful heroes to clear the dungeons and protect everyone. The friend in armor shouts that his great-grandfather came here to stop the disasters before they could even start. The hero and the girls just listen to the guy's outburst in silence, not saying a word. He then says that the others probably think he's just making stuff up to feel better. With a clenched fist, he admits that even his own family thinks he's just looking for comfort in this story. At that moment, the main character places a hand on his friend's shoulder to show some support. With a friendly smile, the guy says he believes every word he said about his relative. The 2 girls look at the hero, completely surprised by his gesture. The friend in armor is shocked and speechless upon hearing his partner's support. Then, the hero remembers his past and thinks that he himself wasn't this kind of good person. In a memory, he's climbing on a bar table, yelling that he doesn't need any master to train him. Pointing at someone, he says he'll surpass the guy soon, and that the old man can go ahead and retire. But in another dungeon, he's attacked by monsters and screams desperately for his master's help. After being saved, he complains, telling them not to help him next time since he didn't expect so many enemies. In another moment, he's training alone and wonders if he's been found out again. With a smug smile, he says he's the type to train in secret only to show off in front of everyone later. In his memories, his master asks why he chose the weakest class of all. The man then explains that no other profession could keep up with his aggressive fighting style. With an irritated look, the young man complains that his mentor is such a pain and never shuts up. He justifies himself by saying he found so many monsters that he couldn't resist and had to fight to level up. Back in the present, the hero says that for his friend's sake, he'll settle the score with the Ding family. Elsewhere, a man in a suit asks if the information a young man gave him is actually true. The young man confirms the story and says the professor in charge of the dungeon can prove the hero's feat. He explains he was blocked at the entrance, but when the students came out, he overheard everything. One of the students asks if the other saw the moment the Wandering Lord was finally defeated. Another replies that with all that noise, it was impossible not to see, and is shocked by the monster's defeat. One student wonders about the identity of Yunxi, who proved to be even more incredible than the others. After hearing the full report, the two men in suits remain quiet, just thinking about the situation. With that, the man stands up and orders the Ding family guards to be summoned to the dungeon. Suddenly, he stops and asks if the Kiao family's youths were also in the dungeon together. With a wicked grin, he then orders them to bring the people from the Kiao family along as well. He then orders the Ding family guards to follow him to the traitor's secret realm. But he pauses for a second, remembering a piece of information about the Kiao family youths. With a wicked grin, he orders them to bring the people from the Kiao family along with them. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, the hero holds a legendary skill book called Barrier of Light. He hands the item to his friend, and says he can learn it since it has no level requirement. The mage is surprised by his action and asks why he's giving away a legendary item just like that. With a smile, the guy explains that it's a skill only for shield users, so it's no use to him. The friend in armor gets emotional, and our hero suggests that maybe his great-grandfather used this very technique. The girl then comments that the main character isn't lacking in powerful skills, as her own are already quite strong. But she admits that compared to him, there's still a huge gap, like his disappearing act, and also his ability to summon a whole bunch of undead to fight alongside him. Upon hearing the word undead, the hero seems to remember something important. Just then, he recalls that his summons are transformed souls that go to the mirror world. With this, the guy seems to have a shocking realization and starts considering the possibilities. Suddenly, the system announces that his mirror walk skill has just finished recharging. With this new idea, the hero wonders if he can really use his ability for that. Then, the guy activates his technique and dives into the mirror world, looking for answers. Inside, he finds a glowing, armored soul who calls out a familiar name. Meanwhile, in the real world, Yunxi tells the mage that they need to go to a ceremony. At that, the blonde girl agrees and realizes they've really spent too much time in that dungeon. The friend in armor says it'd be cooler here, but wonders where the hero got off to. They notice that the main character has been gone for a while and still hasn't shown up. The young man then approaches the soul, calling her Yi and saying he didn't expect to meet her again. He goes on to say he has so much to tell her, but unfortunately it's a shame, because the soul cannot answer and transforms into a dark, terrifying creature. With a serious look, our hero understands that his friend has become a true undead. Although he doesn't want to fight her, the guy knows he has no other choice at that moment. Without a second thought, the creature fires a powerful energy beam at the hero. At that moment, the monster seems to have a flashback to when it was still human. The memories show the young man as a scholar, and the hero seems to recognize the scene of his final moments. The main character wonders if what he's seeing are Benben's experiences during a battle. In this memory, he recognizes the name Ding Kun in the midst of an intense fight. Back in the mirror world, he finds the creature's fighting stance strangely familiar. Standing in front of the monster, he tries to understand what happened to make it this way. He then calls out the name Benben, still in disbelief over the situation he's witnessing. But the creature doesn't respond and charges at the hero with its dark energy sword. With his own blade, the guy defends against the attack while calling out his friend's name. The two then begin an intense battle, trading blows at high speed across the landscape. The hero realizes his opponent is fighting purely on its remaining battle instincts. With that, he tries to retreat, but the system blocks him from leaving the mirror world, trapping him. With nowhere to run, the guy just sighs and accepts his fate there. He understands he has no choice but to fight, while his friend worries on the outside. Just then, the man in the suit arrives and asks where Yunxi is and if he ran away. With a wicked grin, Dingshu says that would be a shame, as it would spoil all the fun. The friend with glasses then asks angrily what they're doing there, if they came to train. Dingshu tells the Kiao family youth to cut the act and accuses him of trespassing on his property with Yunxi. The hero's friend tries to deny everything, but the man in the suit says he recognized his screams easily. At that, the young man is terrified and starts breaking out in a cold sweat in the face of the dangerous situation. But Dingshu says that doesn't matter and, with a wicked grin, reveals he has a present for him. The guy with glasses is shocked to see that the so-called gift is actually his family. He sees everyone there: his second grandfather, his grandmother, his great-uncle, and even his aunt. Even his mother was brought there, and he calls out to her with a trembling voice. Suddenly, his grandfather bellows at the top of his lungs, ordering the young man to kneel immediately. He continues to demand his grandson apologize to the Ding family, but the boy says he won't do it anymore. At this, the old man goes ballistic, questioning the upbringing he gave the boy and demanding he bow. But the kid snaps, yelling and asking if they want the family to be the Ding's lapdog forever. With this rebellious attitude, all his relatives are shocked and frightened by his courage. One of his uncles then shouts that being a dog is a blessing, since they're descendants of sinners. His mother then begs Qiaojie to stop, asking if he wants the whole family to be wiped out because of him. She continues, saying that with his father being sick, it's very hard for her to keep the family together. The young man points to the dungeon and says his great-grandfather went in there to resolve a catastrophe, sacrificing himself. He explains that he's been gathering information about his ancestor this whole time, but had no way to prove it. With a determined look, the young man asserts that the proof is right there, and that his great-grandfather was not a villain. He finishes by saying the truth is different, and his great-grandfather's name can be cleared so they don't have to live like this anymore. With a furious look, the boy says the Ding family has no right to treat them that way. He yells that his great-grandfather's family and the other relatives should not have perished because of this. At that, Ding Shu starts laughing maniacally and says that while it's childish, that's how it should be. Then, the man in the suit stops laughing and agrees with the boy, saying that what he said is true. He confirms that the young man's great-grandfather was taken out in an ambush and was indeed not a villain. With a sick smile, he reveals that his own grandfather rose to power precisely by setting up Qiao-en. But the villain says Qiao-en was an imperial traitor, and therefore deserved to be slandered by everyone. He mocks him, saying it doesn't matter if the boy's father lost his mind, because they deserve to be brought low. At that moment, the man in the suit points to the boy's family to reveal a shocking secret. Ding Shu then reveals that the boy's family has known the whole truth about the past all along. The young man with glasses is stunned, and the villain asks how he thinks the other people met their end. With a satisfied smirk, the antagonist simply orders everyone to kneel before him. To the young man's despair, his entire family obeys and kneels on the ground without a second thought. His mother then begs him to admit his guilt and stop resisting, because it's useless. Crying, she says she doesn't want to lose her son after her husband already lost his mind because of them. The boy is devastated by his mother's words, as she says she can't take this situation anymore, but he remembers a friend cheering him on, telling him not to listen to others because he was the best. He also recalls the main character smiling and saying the same thing to him with confidence. Suddenly, one of Ding Shu's goons attacks him from behind, saying he'll kneel one way or another. But to everyone's surprise, the young man with glasses manages to block the kick with his arm. With no time to react, he's hit by another powerful kick that sends him flying. The impact throws the boy hard against the ground, kicking up dust. Though injured, he gets back up with a determined look and declares that he will never kneel again. The goon who attacked him is surprised by his resistance and lets out a mocking laugh. He then summons a giant stone hammer and questions how the boy dares to fight back. With a wicked grin, the man advances, saying he's going to teach him how a punching bag should act. But before he can attack, an armored warrior appears and blocks the blow with his body. The goon is shocked by the scene, wondering how his attack could have been stopped so easily. The friend in armor protects the young man with glasses, who looks at his mother with a determined gaze. And with a powerful punch, he yells that they are the true descendants of the heroes. The kid with glasses lands a massive punch on the henchman, and yells that they're descendants of heroes. Seeing this, the villain Ding Shu is totally floored by the kid's nerve and the power he just pulled out of nowhere. The henchman can't believe it, wondering how the kid got so strong all of a sudden, saying it's impossible. Fuming, he yells that the young guy was nothing more than a punching bag he'd always used for practice. He keeps ranting that he's been beating on the kid since childhood, but now, his attack is completely blocked. Seeing his shot get defended, the attacker gets even more ticked off by the unexpected turn of events. Just then, the kid in armor stomps his foot on the ground, showing off his new, incredible stability. His family watches from a distance, completely shocked by their relative's transformation. With a determined look, the young man states that he's no longer the same weak person he used to be. Meanwhile, somewhere else, the protagonist is fighting against his own dark copy. He realizes the power gap between them is huge, since the clone is already in its final form. The shadow creature manages to block the hero's attacks using an energy shield. Our hero thinks he'd be toast right now if the clone wasn't a defense class type. But he has an ace up his sleeve, since he's the one who taught the enemy all of its combat techniques. Because of this, the protagonist knows every single one of that shadow creature's weak spots. He figures the clone's defense is way too high, and even with his tricks, he won't be able to chip away much HP. So the protagonist strikes with his flaming sword, trying to break the enemy's guard, but the shadow creature summons a legendary skill, a golden light barrier, to defend itself. Our hero realizes the situation just got way harder, and thinks this is going to be a real problem. A moment later, the fire sword clashes with the light shield, causing a gigantic explosion. Back at the other fight, the henchman attacks the kid with glasses, using a chaotic mountain hammer, but the kid blocks the blow with his shield and counters with a powerful punch to the face. He continues to fend off the aggressor's attacks, showing off his new, incredible toughness. Ding Shu gets annoyed and asks his henchman why he hasn't taken down the Qiao kid yet. With that, the villain jumps into the fray, saying he's going to take out his subordinate's frustration on the kid. The man in the suit prepares to launch a powerful yellow energy attack at the young man. But to his surprise, the kid also summons the golden light barrier and tells him to just watch from the sidelines. So Ding Shu mocks the kid's family, calling them all cowards for not fighting one-on-one. Meanwhile, the protagonist is thinking about the light barrier, which is a seriously overpowered legendary skill. He knows its defense doesn't just rely on stats, and that it can take at least 10 attacks. The protagonist knows the barrier is a consumable skill and has one major weakness, because even the smallest bit of damage drains its energy, and after 10 hits it simply shatters. With a wicked grin, Ding Shu breaks the barrier and asks what the kid is going to do now. He says he never cared about that technique, not even when the kid's great-grandfather used it. But the armored young man says that if his ancestor were there, the villain would be begging for mercy. At that, the man in the suit hops onto a rock and scoffs at the kid, who doesn't seem afraid. He mocks him, saying that so-called hero was a nobody who perished in some low-level secret realm. With his hands behind his back, he says that even if the kid's great-grandfather came back, it wouldn't change a thing. Then the villain uses a gravity attack, claiming the ancestor would kneel before him. From the powerful impact, the young man is smashed into the ground, coughing up a lot of blood. The enemy summons an axe and threatens the kid, saying he's going to take his leg so he can't stand up. At that moment, the boy's mother begs the master to spare her son's life, saying he's just ignorant. Crying, she kneels and offers herself in his place, telling them to do whatever they want with her. With a sick smile, the antagonist seems to like the sound of that and thinks up a twisted proposal. He then threatens the young man, saying that if he doesn't kneel that very second, he'll take out his mother. But the villain backs off, saying there are plenty of people he could get rid of anyway. At this, the kid with glasses panics and tries to kneel to save his mother's life. Suddenly, something powerful crashes down from the sky, hitting the ground and kicking up a cloud of dust. The armored boy is frozen in place, staring at the scene with wide eyes, not understanding a thing. His entire family is also completely terrified by the sudden and mysterious appearance. Ding Shu then turns around, irritated, to see who dared to interrupt his moment of fun. To his astonishment, a ghostly figure in armor appears, and he screams the name Kyon. The boy's mother looks at the specter and wonders if that's really her grandfather who's returned. A relative panics, questioning how the ancestor could come back to life, saying it's impossible. The young man's grandfather observes the creature and comments that its form looks a lot like a lich. Just then, the protagonist appears and says that they all looked down on the hero in the past. With a smile, he appears next to the specter and announces that he's back to settle the score. With a confident smirk, our hero says he's here to settle the score with the Ding family. The villain gets ticked off, mocking the kid's attitude and saying he's getting way ahead of himself. The man in the suit then orders his goons to attack, and the spirit uses some defensive skills. Two guards charge at the ghost, but their swords are easily blocked by the creature. Even surrounded by several enemies, the specter continues to fend off the attacks with no sweat. Shocked, the grandpa of the kid with glasses recognizes the fighting style and asks if that's really his ancestor. The hero's friend is also blown away by the blocking technique used to stop so many guards at once. But Ding Shu recognizes the undead, saying it's the same piece of junk the hero summoned at his house. With his flaming axe, the villain scoffs, saying the creature is only level 33. Then the enemy attacks the undead with everything he's got, declaring it's nothing but complete trash. However, to everyone's surprise, the specter manages to block the powerful blow using just its arm. The man in the suit is stunned, wondering how his attack was stopped like that. A huge shockwave ripples through the area from the impact of the two colliding powers. He gets even more furious, questioning the blocking technique as his arm glows red. Ding Shu then attacks again, yelling that in the face of absolute power, techniques are useless. With his flaming axe, the villain charges full force toward the undead. But the specter summons a golden light barrier, and the man in the suit is shocked by the skill. Our hero thinks that even as an undead, his friend is still a powerful S-class warrior. Because of that, he knows the light barrier is strong enough to hold back the enemy for a good while. Ding Shu then orders his men to attack together to quickly drain the barrier's energy. Seeing this, the protagonist summons his army of skeletons to fight against the Ding family's guards. Annoyed, the villain equips a new set of armor, saying the situation is just a minor inconvenience. Engulfed in flames, he says it doesn't matter if it's the specter or the skeletons, since they're just summons. He lunges forward with a concussive punch, saying if he takes out the summoner, the creatures will vanish. With a wicked look, the man in the suit reveals he has high-class treasures he got from his grandfather. The antagonist then unleashes a powerful red energy blast directly at our hero. He continues the assault, wondering if the kid really thinks he can do anything against him. But the villain is floored when he sees that the protagonist emerged completely unscathed from his powerful attack. With his slashing claws, the young man rushes the enemy with everything he has. Ding Shu is baffled by the scene, wondering where the boy went since he just vanished into thin air. Out of nowhere, our hero appears behind the villain and strikes him on the shoulder with his sword. The The scene shows the protagonist and the specter fighting against the guards and the man in the suit. The young man then leaps toward his undead ally to help him in the battle. The ghostly creature holds its glowing sword, preparing for the next attack. Together, the two charge at the Ding family's guards for a combo attack. With a quick spin, the protagonist sends one of the enemies flying with a single blow. Dingshu is absolutely furious with the situation and starts cursing the kid out. But the young man just stares him down with his glowing eyes and a cold, determined look. Our hero then unleashes a shower of purple energy blasts at the man in the suit. The villain screams in pain as his hand is hit square on by the young man's attacks. Desperate, he calls for a priest to heal him, as he's badly injured. Suddenly, the protagonist's face appears right behind the enemy, who is utterly terrified. With a powerful kick, the young man sends the villain flying, yelling at him to get lost. Our hero then stands still, watching the defeated enemy on the ground with a dark aura. He approaches the man in the suit and, with a smirk, asks if he's scared. The man in the suit keeps screaming for the priest, but no one shows up to help him. The villain then realizes his priest was taken out by the protagonist's skeleton archers. Dingshu is shocked to see that his entire army of guards has been defeated by the undead. Our hero asks if he still thinks his undead are the same ones he saw at his house. With the possession of the evil spirit, their attack and defense increase by 30%, and now, with the legendary buff, they are far beyond what the guards can handle in a fight. The man in the suit is terrified by the newfound strength of the kid's skeleton army. With that, the villain decides to make a run for it, knowing he no longer has a chance to win. But out of nowhere, the ghost specter appears in front of him, blocking his escape route. With nowhere to run, the man in the suit stops and watches what's happening. He looks back and sees the protagonist right in front of him with a menacing gaze. Then giant swords erupt from the ground, completely surrounding the villain with no chance of escape. The young man then reveals that this is his class's absolute formation and no one below S rank can escape it. With a smile, our hero says he can try to escape again if he wants, but it won't do any good. The man in the suit then uses a red item and yells for the kid not to get any closer. He reveals he has a void bomb, an S-class item he received from his grandfather. The villain threatens that if he sets it off, the protagonist will definitely be taken out due to his low level. But our hero calmly faces him and challenges him to just detonate the bomb already. Dingshu is startled and asks if the kid wants to get himself eliminated, but says that he himself will survive. The young man then explains that even if the ghost is destroyed, he can just revive it again. Then our hero appears right next to the man in the suit, who starts breaking out in a cold sweat. The protagonist finishes his sentence, saying that Dingshu can't even land a hit on him. With that, the two trade high-speed energy blows with their glowing weapons. The void bomb falls to the ground and explodes in a massive wave of purple energy. Shrouded in his blue aura, the protagonist looks at the enemy and simply tells him to kneel. Dingshu drops to his knees with his arms destroyed and his body begins to fall apart. The hero's friend smiles in relief, seeing that justice has finally been served. Meanwhile, one of the villain's henchmen is trapped in the sword formation, crying in fear. The protagonist then stands over Dingshu's defeated body, his sword resting on his shoulder. With a cold look and glowing eyes, he asks the villain what good he is now. Our hero then checks the villain's items and finds a ton of stuff in his inventory. He notices the guy even had hundreds of health potions stashed away for emergencies. But the system shows that each potion only restores 100 health over 10 seconds, which is pretty pathetic. The protagonist thinks that with such a slow recovery rate, using those potions would be pointless. So even if the enemy had used everything, he still wouldn't have stood a chance and would have ended up defeated. The young man then explains that after defeating a strong enemy, their soul appears somewhere else. The opponent's soul goes to the mirror world, and there he can do whatever he wants with it. So our hero could easily turn the villain's soul into another one of his undead. With this, he understands that he can expand his army of advanced undead by defeating enemies. But he looks at Dingshu on the ground and seems to have a better idea of what to do with the guy. The protagonist then decides to keep the villain alive for now, as he might be useful later. While the young man checks his new items, his friend's grandfather watches him, impressed by his strength. The old man thinks that our hero guided his grandson and helped him grow so much on this journey. But one of the relatives gets worried, saying that now the Ding family will come for revenge with everything they've got. He adds that even though the kid is strong, a real hero might get involved in the fight. The man adds that heroes are even stronger these days. The protagonist agrees but knows that if what happened here gets out, he won't have time to get stronger. With that, the young man decides he needs to quickly reach the level required to face the fake hero. Suddenly, a notification pops up showing that his soldier level has increased. He realizes that sending his undead to fight separately really paid off. The kid thinks that with their current levels and equipment, they can fight here without any issues. But the protagonist knows this place is no longer good enough for him to level up quickly. He then reveals there was another important reason for sending his undead far away. His minions found the Dungeon Lord, a chained-up, level 41 monster. Unlike a roaming lord, a dungeon lord is the core of the entire place. With the sword shield domain, if he defeats the creature, the secret realm will be cleared. But when the lord is defeated, the entire secret realm disappears along with it. The hero's friend says the entrance is guarded by his teacher, and the villain must have tricked him. He adds that if his family leaves on their own now, it will look super suspicious. With that, the young man concludes that the only way out is by clearing the dungeon and making it vanish. This way, his friend's family can escape in the middle of all the chaos that will follow. That way, the Ding family won't be able to confirm what happened to their relative inside. The protagonist thinks this will buy them a lot of time to prepare for what's to come. With the victory over the Lord, the system announces that he has leveled up and cleared the secret realm. The family of the kid with glasses is shocked to see the dungeon disappearing right before their eyes. The young man explains that with the chaos, the Ding family won't react immediately to their relative's disappearance. So he tells them to use the chaos to escape, as they should be safe for a while. But the young man adds that if their enemies really do come after them for revenge, he asks the family to simply turn him over so they don't suffer the consequences. With that, the protagonist uses his ability to recall all of his undead. A notification appears, and he sees that his mirror world ability gained 5,000 experience points. The system informs him that by killing the Lord, he obtained the core spirit and converted it into an element. This makes the kid realize that to get his skill to level 3, he needs to kill more lords. He reflects that the last upgrade to his ability made him much stronger than before. With a determined look, he thinks that if he levels up again, he'll be able to face the fake hero. The scene shifts to another rich man's secret realm, where some guards are patrolling the area. One of the guards with a mustache complains, wondering if they really need to take their job so seriously. He doubts anyone would dare to invade and even suggests a game of cards to pass the time. But suddenly, the card the man was holding simply disintegrates in his hands. Startled, the guard turns around to see what happened but finds absolutely no one there. He then wonders if he felt someone behind him and if it was all just an illusion. The protagonist thinks that the civilian guards are around level 30 at best and aren't a problem. Because of this, to him, these private secret realms are basically unguarded and easy to invade. Without wasting any time, the young man enters another dungeon while the guard stands there in shock. He continues to push through the area, getting closer and closer to his final goal. With a dark look, the kid thinks it's almost time to finally put an end to the fake hero. But he knows that before that, he needs to hold back and stay calm so he doesn't mess up his plans. So the protagonist continues to fight the dungeon's monsters to get even stronger. The young man reflects that staying calm during battles means making fewer mistakes in the process. With that, he continues to defeat dungeon lords and level up very quickly. The protagonist continues on his journey, facing various monsters and leveling up more and more. As a result, newspapers start reporting that private secret realms are being cleared. With every dungeon our hero defeats, his mirror world ability gains more experience. The news spreads, stating that several realms have been cleared secretly and maliciously. Reading the newspaper, the protagonist's friend's uncle wonders if all of this was our hero's doing. The grandfather then realizes that with so many realms cleared, they will connect the dots to what happened. This will lead the Ding family straight to the protagonist, and he will be in great danger. The old man gets emotional, realizing the kid did all of that to protect them from revenge. The family is now in a well-hidden place, far from their enemies, to stay safe. The uncle of the boy with glasses is relieved, saying that now they don't have to be afraid anymore. The family finally believes they can escape the clutches of the Ding family once and for all. But suddenly, a powerful attack hits their hideout, and everyone is caught by surprise. From the smoke, a voice asks if they really think they can just escape like that. A man emerges and questions if they think they can run by hiding behind a criminal. With a wicked look, he says that just for daring to run, they already deserve to be punished. The villain asks if they are underestimating the hero's family, his tone dripping with menace. He then moves closer to stomp on them, calling them foolish and worthless traitors. The enemy reveals that the protagonist's whereabouts have already been tracked, and he's in the hero's secret realm. Meanwhile, our level 42 hero finally reaches his destination and challenges the fake hero. With that, his mirror world ability finally reaches level 3, becoming even more powerful. In the hero's secret realm, the protagonist surveys the area next to a mysterious girl. He thinks that the realms he cleared before were only level 30, and continuing in them would be inefficient. Higher level realms like this hero's are much harder to get into. They are controlled by the state and guarded by the army, with no one allowed to get close. On top of that, whenever he enters the mirror world, he can only explore 200 meters around him. Because of that, there's no way for him to enter these places without being noticed by a guard. So, the young man realizes he's going to need help from the blonde girl to get inside. With a smile, the girl asks if the reason he called her was so she could get him in. She says she doesn't know how much he understands about her identity, but the situation isn't simple. The girl explains that even she can't get in without a pass, and he shows her one he managed to get. Surprised by his move, the blonde girl says he came well prepared for the mission. She takes the temporary pass and examines it with a serious and thoughtful expression. The girl says the pass requires someone to accompany him, or it won't clear the inspection. She then asks what his reason is for wanting to enter this secret realm without being noticed by anyone. The protagonist replies that she herself saw his friend's situation in the traitor's realm. He says that since his friend isn't ugly like they say, maybe there's something fishy about the rebellion. Our hero then reveals he wants to help his friend clear his family's name and uncover the truth. But the blonde girl isn't convinced and asks if he thinks she's stupid enough to believe that. She questions why he would risk offending the heroes for someone who isn't even his relative. The girl also reveals that the protagonist even managed to infiltrate her own family's mansion. With that, she asks if he predicted what would happen to his friend and stole the past because of it. The young woman also mentions that not long ago, one of the villains went to the traitor's secret realm. He did it just to cause trouble for the protagonist and his friend who were there. But after that, the man simply vanished, and no one has found him to this day. The blonde girl then concludes that his goal is clearly to confront the heroes. She says it seems more like he has a deep-seated hostility toward the heroes of the past. The girl adds that since his last name is the same as the traitors, maybe they're related. But the protagonist surprises her by saying her last name is also the same as the traitors. Shocked by the revelation, the girl says she didn't do any of the other things he's accusing her of. With a mysterious look, she reveals that her last name isn't actually the same as the traitors. The girl says she only changed her name to avoid trouble, and our hero asks if she's not afraid of being reported. She then threatens that she could report him directly to the army, and if she did, he'd be finished. But with a confident smile, the protagonist says he believes she wouldn't do something like that. He says that someone who risked their life to save students wouldn't side with the Ding family. With that, the young man hands her a diary that the Ding family stole and tells her to read its contents. The diary reveals that the fake hero's descendants committed various crimes, using their bloodline to intimidate people. But with a mocking look, the girl asks if he thinks that's enough to convince her. She calls him naive for putting his life in her hands and asks if he's never been betrayed. The protagonist gets a serious, pensive look upon hearing the word betrayal, remembering his past. The girl is surprised by his reaction and seems at a loss for words. He then says that even if he's been through it before, that doesn't mean he can't trust others anymore. The young man states that he prefers to believe that her true nature isn't evil, and the girl is left speechless. Awkwardly, the girl says he doesn't seem like a good person himself, but looks thoughtful about the situation. She then challenges him, saying that if he trusts her so much, he should follow her and see if she betrays him along the way. With that, the young woman starts walking, and the protagonist follows her, trusting her word for what comes next. The blonde girl is surprised, thinking she never imagined someone would still trust her. With that, the two arrive at the entrance of the secret realm and are greeted by the guards. One of the guards greets her and says she can enter directly, as they already have orders for it. But the same guard asks why she didn't come with the Ding family elder who just arrived. He looks at the cloaked protagonist and asks if he's the girl's personal guard. The young woman explains that when the elder entered, he warned them that the family's temporary pass had been stolen. With a suspicious look, the girl asks the guard if he's suspecting her. The man panics and denies it, saying he just received information from the security department. He reveals that the criminal who invaded the other realms was also spotted nearby. The guard explains he's only doing this for her safety, following standard procedure. With a smirk, the blonde girl tells our hero that the guards are insisting on investigating him. She gets closer to the young man and says that since that's the case, she'll check the guard herself. With a serious look, the young woman asks the guard if he thinks she wouldn't recognize her own guard. She continues, saying that maybe she's the one who's been replaced, and asks if he wants to inspect her too. The guard gets desperate and says he wouldn't dare, and that if she's sure, then there's no mistake. With that, the two enter the secret realm, passing the guards without any more trouble. The protagonist realizes that the girl's status is even higher than he imagined. The girl says she brought him inside because of the trust he showed in her, but she warns him that she won't help him anymore, and that she doesn't care what he plans to do. Our hero thanks her and summons one of his undead, telling her to take it with her when she leaves. He explains that this way the guards won't suspect her, and the young woman says he has some sense after all. The young man then enters the mirror world and observes the ghostly version of the place. He activates the additional compensation skill and says that now he can finally use it. This is a new ability that was unlocked when the mirror world reached level 3. The system shows that he can hunt demons to unlock the skill's next phase. With the new technique, the protagonist plants a secret realm anchor in the location. With this, he can create copies of the dungeon's monsters to fight against in the mirror world. The level 3 ability allows him to copy monsters from the real world for training. With a smile, the young man realizes he can now freely farm monsters in the mirror world. He'll be able to do this without worrying about being discovered by guards or other enemies. The protagonist then exits the mirror world and returns to the reality of the dungeon. He discovers that even after leaving, his undead can stay there to level up on their own. This allows the young man to carefully investigate the area while his minions get stronger. According to the diary he stole, the fake hero is hiding in that castle. The kid thinks that he knows very little about the enemy and needs more information. He only knows that the man reached S rank decades ago and hasn't shown his strength since. The protagonist feels more confident, thinking that if he had more intel, he could handle him better. He remembers that in his past life, he knew everyone who reached S rank, but the fake hero appeared out of nowhere. So the young man asks his ghost friend if he knows who this so-called fake hero is. But the ghost spirit just remains silent, seeming confused by the question. The protagonist realizes he still can't communicate with his friend even after everything. He understands that with his ability at level 3, the intelligence of his undead has increased. With his SS ability evolving, his minions have become much smarter than before. The most obvious improvement was in his ghost friend, who now seems much more aware. But the kid laments that it's still not enough for them to communicate normally. So he believes that if he keeps leveling up his ability, maybe his friend will regain his consciousness. Meanwhile, in the castle, a man tells his father that he can't ignore the disappearance of the third son. He adds that the man's favorite son is still missing and no one knows where he is. On the throne, the fake hero listens to the security report, which says the criminal dared to approach their location. The man says that to take the third son so quietly, the enemy must have reached S rank. With that, he asks his father to take action to ensure everyone's safety. But the fake hero ignores him, saying he can't even take care of one son and yet wants to lecture him. Suddenly, the man starts to feel sick and seems to be suffering a mysterious attack. The fake hero says that even at his age, he barely reached S rank and can't even withstand a single blow. He says the only reason he kept him alive was so he could look after his grandson. But the fake hero complains that not only did he lose him, but now he has to clean up the mess. With his face covered in blood, the man hears the villain say that losing the third son is like losing a relative. But the fake hero reveals that it actually means losing several years of his own life. The scene changes and shows a descendant of the hero treating a man like an animal. Elsewhere, desperate people fight for food while being attacked by wolves. A little girl cries from hunger while a man warns that if she eats everything, there will be nothing left. A mage tells the hero's descendant that his pet hasn't eaten meat in days. The protagonist observes the scene and thinks that compared to this, the Ding family's realm was restrained. With a serious look, the young man wonders if he should expose himself to end this cruelty. Suddenly, he notices something and looks to the side with an alert and curious gaze. The ghost spirit beside him appears to be suffering, feeling intense pain. The young man is surprised because even in that condition, his friend still rushes to help others. A memory from the past surfaces, showing two children from the disaster zone who were the kindest and strongest. The protagonist remembers taking them in as his disciples to train them and make them stronger. He hoped they would grow up strong and become people who help others. But the protagonist blames himself, saying that in the end it was because of him that his friend became what he is. Suddenly, the ghost spirit begins to speak, calling out the names Lan and Shadow. Shocked, the young man calls out to his friend, not understanding what's happening to him. He asks if his friend has regained his consciousness, but the spirit can only say the name Ding. Filled with rage, the ghost creature screams the full name of the fake hero who betrayed him in the past. At this, the protagonist's eye glows intensely with a purple aura upon hearing the revelation. Meanwhile, the fake hero on the throne calls out the protagonist's name upon seeing what happened. The villain questions if the kid is using a similar name to try and provoke him somehow. He's surprised, as he never thought he'd hear that name again after so many years. The fake hero then says he's going to see who dares to impersonate his dear master. The blonde villain shows up with his pet orcs, petting them and calling them his good little babies. He then mentions he's been busy with some other pets, so his monsters must be starving. With a sick grin, the blonde guy enjoys the destruction he's caused in the city, with several extras lying on the ground. Meanwhile, a poor child cries beside her father who isn't moving anymore. With a bored expression, the villain says he's already tired of these human toys. So he orders his hungry orcs to gobble up all the remaining survivors. Just as the monsters are about to attack the little girl, they're sliced apart by several purple lightning bolts. Suddenly, our MC appears out of nowhere and saves the child at the last second with his sword. With a dark gaze, the MC calls out the name of someone who seems to be Lan Chan. Wielding his weapon, he wonders how the villain could possibly be Ding Kun. The blonde guy is surprised by the intruder and asks who he is for trespassing on his territory. The hero then stares down the enemy with a look full of hatred, gearing up for a fight. In his thoughts, he wonders how his master Ding Kun could have taught such a despicable person. And so we start a flashback, showing a man talking about the end of the Age of Knights. We see a younger version of the protagonist, saying that even so, he wants to pass on the teachings. The blonde boy says that with the master, his strength will surpass that of ordinary professionals. Ding Kun then warns that to continue learning from him, they must follow a few rules. The first rule was to be humble, but the kid already thought he was hot stuff while training in the field. Next, he taught them to respect everyone, but the blonde boy complained about the payment given to an old man. The other apprentice tells him to shut it, but Lan Chan snaps right back without a care in the world. Then the master gives a book as a gift to the other student and advises him not to be arrogant. Back in the present, the MC's attack flies toward the villain with full force. With a single blow, the enemy's arcane shield is completely shattered, leaving him in shock. The blonde villain can't believe his eyes and wonders how his attack power could be so high. Then he notices that his protective necklace, a level 30 legendary item, has turned to dust. Filled with rage, the enemy calls the MC a piece of trash and prepares an attack with his magic staff. But the protagonist doesn't flinch and faces his opponent, ready to show him what real power looks like. Another memory from the past surfaces with the master's second lesson, which was to have mercy. Back then, Ding Kun taught his disciples to always treat the weak and defenseless with kindness. The lesson was to always use compassion to combat violence and the injustices of the world. The protagonist lunges forward and unleashes a powerful strike with his purple sword at the villain, but the attack passes right through him, and the blonde guy reveals it was just an illusion to trick him. With a mocking smile, he creates several copies of himself and challenges the hero to cut them all down. He then comments on the angry face the protagonist always makes when he's fighting. Lane Chan asks if all this rage is because of these useless extras lying on the ground. The villain taunts the hero to attack again, saying he's curious to see the look on his face, and then he reveals that if he attacks the illusions, he'll actually be cutting down the defenseless civilians. At that moment, the MC's sword begins to glow and his attack power multiplies several times over. The hero then realizes he's in a mirror world where the targets have simply been swapped. Unfazed by the trick, he charges forward once more with a swift and precise movement. The strike hits the villain's partner, and the blonde guy can't understand how his illusion was discovered. The master's third lesson was to be brave and decisive in battle without hesitation. During a fight, he taught that there should be no cowards in the pursuit of justice. After nearly getting wiped out in training, the apprentices complained to Ding-kun about the danger. But the master just smiles and tells them to calm down as he was keeping an eye on them the whole time. The blonde guy tells his partner to fight so he can run, shouting that if anything happens, his grandpa will get revenge. The villain's partner then uses a bunch of spells all at once to try and hold the hero back. Except the spells don't hit anyone, and the mage is left confused, not knowing where the MC went. Out of nowhere, the protagonist appears right behind the mage, his sword ready for the final blow. With a cold stare, the hero finishes off the henchman, who didn't even have a chance to react. Desperate, the mage begs for his life and rats out the villain, telling the hero to go after Ding Yan. But the hero shows no mercy and finishes him off as the master's fourth lesson echoes in his mind. Suddenly, the MC changes form, and the villain shakes in his boots, screaming that he's the grandson of a hero. Even while getting beaten, the blonde guy won't shut up and threatens the protagonist and his entire family. The hero defeats him and gets a bunch of loot while someone screams in despair at the scene. The master's fifth lesson then comes to our hero's mind, which was to always be honest. Next, the sixth lesson appears in his memories, which was about always being just. Right after, his master's seventh lesson emerges, which was about having honor in his actions. And finally, the master's eighth lesson appears in his mind, which was about the soul. Back in the present, the protagonist launches an attack with several blades of dark energy. On the ground, the blonde villain stares at the protagonist with a mocking smile even after getting thrashed. The hero looks at the destruction and questions Lan Chan for ignoring his teachings and attacking him. Furious, he screams, asking why his old friend did so many terrible things. Out of nowhere, a demonic figure appears and asks sarcastically what all the fuss is about. The shadowy being then mocks the protagonist, saying he looked like he was having fun there. Suddenly, a massive explosion occurs, destroying much of what was left of the city. Dust kicks up and everything turns to rubble after that completely devastating attack. Amidst the smoke, the MC heals himself, revealing he's equipped with some seriously powerful gear. Even wounded and covered in blood, he gets back up and insists on asking the reason for the betrayal. Then, the enemy's identity is revealed as Lan Chan, a level 71 berserker. The villain easily dodges several magic projectiles flying in his direction. He then creates a mirror to defend himself from the relentless attacks, but the protagonist appears out of thin air right behind the traitor, ready to strike again. With his sword in hand, he finally asks why Lan Chan betrayed him like that. The protagonist's blow lands a direct hit, and the villain's armor starts to crack instantly. With a mocking grin, Lan Chan comments that the hero's speed and power aren't normal. The MC gets furious, seeing that the traitor isn't taking the fight seriously at all. He then shouts the villain's name, confirming that it really is his old friend in front of him. Once again, the hero asks why he betrayed him, but Lan Chan plays dumb. The villain realizes the protagonist knows his old name, Yun Che, and calls him that right away. He then wonders if it was the old master who sent the hero to face him now. Without giving him time to answer, Lan Chan launches a powerful attack with his giant sword. The blow is so strong that the villain moves at lightning speed to strike the protagonist head-on. He then scoffs at the idea of the hero being like their master, saying it's in poor taste. But the MC catches the attack with one hand and yells again, demanding to know about the betrayal. The villain looks at him with contempt and says he's nothing more than a simple tool. He then says there's nothing left to talk about and prepares to fight for real. With absurd power, he creates a shockwave that destroys everything around him. Suddenly, a new armored figure appears, and the protagonist smiles confidently. The energy creature screams Lan Chan's name and shatters into several pieces of pure darkness. With a thoughtful look, the villain just watches the scene in silence, showing no reaction. Then the villain charges at the blue creature with uncontrolled fury. He grabs the being by the neck and screams desperately, wanting to know how Ben could still be alive. Completely losing it, the villain demands to know the secret of how he survived the attack. But the creature doesn't back down and counters with an attack full of yellow energy. At that moment, the villain finally understands the situation and realizes the hero is a necromancer. He comments that even though it's a resurrection, the being doesn't seem to have much intelligence left. Just then, an archer named Ding Shun appears and asks why his father went to the front lines. 2 more warriors show up and say they'll take care of these low-life thieves. But the protagonist doesn't want help and yells furiously for everyone to get out of his way. With his skills, he summons an army of the undead to hold back the extras. The villain is confused by the situation and wonders who the heck this Sanwazi guy is. The blue creature then realizes this is its form after passing on and gets pretty down about it. Suddenly, the villain feels a strange pain and lets out a groan of pure discomfort. With a psychopathic look, the villain says his blood relative has made him very interested. Even as a dead spirit, it attacks the protagonist, landing a powerful punch. The hero is sent flying, and the traitor comments that he managed to revive someone else. At that, Lan Chan charges forward desperately and yells for the master to prove his identity to him. With a sick smile, he insists that the protagonist has to be his dear master. The villain promises to tell him everything, and the hero remembers him helping others in a cage. The protagonist's sword then glows intensely, accumulating an absurd amount of power. He attacks with everything he's got, and the traitor wonders how the situation got so crazy all of a sudden. But the villain says all this confusion is the fault of his dear master who abandoned him. Full of rage, the hero asks who helped him escape from slavery and made him powerful. He then questions him about his teachings, but Lan Chan just wants to know what took him so long. The traitor attacks, screaming about why the master took so long to save him from that hell. In a flashback, he remembers all the suffering he endured, feeling all alone. He then wonders why the son of a knight could live so comfortably, and also why Qiao Benben, who hadn't suffered at all, could receive such good treatment. Desperate, the villain questions why Benben was better than him at everything. He then screams at the master, demanding to know the reason for so much favoritism towards Qiao Benben. Was it all just because the other guy was born with a silver spoon in his mouth? With a sad look, he asks why the master turned him into a berserker. He thinks it was because he was a coward and should have become a guard with more defense. But the protagonist firmly denies it, saying he never favored anyone between them. The MC still remembers that the villain himself acted like he wanted to be stronger and braver. Lan Chan snaps, screaming that he only did it because the master prefers people like Benben. With tears in his eyes, he says he tried so hard to appear brave too. And then he accuses the master of having always looked down on his humble origins deep down. The hero stares back without a word as the villain tells him to shove his virtues. He claims that good treatment only comes with power and that Benben was an idiot for saving people. With a calm look, he asks if this can even be called a betrayal. He says that if the master chose Benben, he can choose others, like his brother Luo Wei. In the end, he tells the hero to go see what happened to Benben's descendants now. With a sinister laugh, Lan Chan says his descendants can only be slaves to his family. He then points to a statue and boasts about the position Luo Wei has achieved now. And now he wants to know which of them made the right choice for the future. The protagonist's aura begins to explode with pure rage at all this nonsense. With blood dripping down his face, the hero screams that Lan Chan is an ungrateful scumbag. He then launches an attack with several purple energy crystals toward the traitor. Dozens of projectiles fly at high speed, ready to finish off the enemy. But the villain manages to defend himself from the attacks using his giant sword as a shield. The impact of the blow kicks up a cloud of purple dust and shatters everything around them. But the power is so immense that the traitor is hit dead on by several energy blades. With contempt, the MC says he can't even hold a candle to some guy named Manhwa. And with a look of pure hatred, he finishes by saying the traitor isn't even worthy of being mentioned in the same breath.